One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart, steel, and a spirit unbroken. He rides on two wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow, he takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hear his battle cry. Metal and mayhem will never die. Rituals report he paves his way. Oh, legend in the making, day by day.
Good morning to all of you freaking legends, man. Great to see everyone in the chat. And we've got a big morning ahead of us. Let's get it. Great to see everyone, man. We got a lot to discuss. We got U.S.-Iran ops as well as Hantavirus alert as well as global headlines. So let's go ahead and give you guys the chronological breakdown of what we're looking at for this morning. We have a few things that we're going to be discussing from yesterday. We have the Hantavirus, the breakout, and we have to go to yesterday to be able to get the very first kind of like main story about it. But nonetheless, there's an update on the whole case. So the cruiser stranded after Hantavirus breakout, 3 dead and 7 ill. Now, if you guys know what Hantavirus is, I actually didn't know what it was until the breakout happened just a couple of days ago. But what it is people get it as an airborne thing from rat droppings. That's unfortunately how you get it, right? And to get a human-to-human transfer, like if I got Hantavirus and you are around me, it's actually very hard for me to transfer it over to you. But when you're in a consolidated area, such as a ship or something like that, it's very easy for people to get sick. All right, so that's the very first story we're going to be discussing. Then we have Carrollton, Texas shooting, 2 dead and 3 are hurt. It says police provided an update after 2 people were killed and 3 others were left hurt due to a shooting. A large police presence was seen at the shopping center off of Highway 121. Sorry about that. That's what we're looking at. And then yesterday, Marco Rubio actually stood in for Caroline Leavitt in the White House press the press conference, and he did phenomenal. Actually, he was totally quote unquote winging it. That's actually what he even said. He goes, I'm just up here winging it. And I'm going to be honest, I grew a lot of respect for Marco on his dealing with the media, as well as the way that he answers all of the questions was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I was wildly impressed. And then we have Supreme Court agrees to fast track what LA, meaning Louisiana, voting map decision. Now, I really don't know what they're discussing on this. It says Representative Cleo Fields, Democrat from Louisiana, joins live now from Fox, which is great. It says Christina Evans talks about SCOTUS fast-tracking Louisiana's voting map decision. So, of course, we're going to hear a little bit of COPE. Listen, man, I really don't have any empathy or sympathy, I guess, when it comes to the gerrymandering thing. Listen, if the left is going to go ahead and decide to use it, when the right decides to use it, you can't cry about it. Same thing, vice versa. If the right does something and then later on the left does it, you can't be mad that they did that. Like, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't make sense to me. And then, of course, we're going to be getting into Project Freedom. Trump pauses plan to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz. So it's paused. Says the U.S. announced Monday that American forces have cleared a route that will allow ships to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and get around Iran's effective closure of the vital shipping lane. The U.S.-led Joint Maritime Information Center told crews that a quote-unquote enhanced security area was established for ships to navigate the strait through Omani waters. The new passageway is clear of Iranian mines. Admiral Brad Cooper, commander of U.S. Central Command, told reporters. Says, though, Cooper said Iran launched missiles, drones, and small boats at civilian ships that were under U.S. military protection, and, quote, each and every threat has been defeated, he says. He added that 6 of those small boats have been sunk. Now, on Tuesday evening, however, President Donald Trump announced the plan would be put on hold at the request of Pakistan and other nations. The president also cited, quote, great progress, reaching a final agreement with Iran. The United States is pausing its plan to help guide ships that are stranded in the Persian Gulf to navigate through the Strait of Hormuz and reach their destinations. President Trump announced that that Project Freedom initiative launched Monday will be put on hold, adding that the ongoing U.S. blockade of Iran will remain effective. We're about to get all into that. Sorry for my coughing, guys. Woke up, when you drink and smoke the night prior, it makes you, makes you cough a little bit like that. Excuse me. All right. Hantavirus outbreak. Human-to-human transmission suspected on cruise ship. It says the World Health Organization said Tuesday that rare human-to-human transmission of the hantavirus may have happened aboard a cruise ship in the Atlantic Ocean of nearly 150 passengers. 3 passengers have died and at least 4 others have been sickened. And then we're going to be bringing our attention over to Ohio. Trump-backed Ramaswamy wins Ohio governor primary. That happened last night at midnight when this came out. And then this morning, 3 hours ago, Hantavirus update. We have an update on the whole thing. New cruiser test positive. 3 patients evacuated and 3 dead. So this is a whole different ship. It says authorities in Switzerland say a man who returned from South America and traveled abroad the MV Honduras, hit by hantavirus, has tested positive for the virus and is receiving treatment. The head of the World Health Organization says that 3 or more patients with suspected hantavirus case have been evacuated from the affected cruise ship and are on their way to the Netherlands for treatment and testing. Wow. So they didn't evacuate the whole ship. They just took those people off. They're like, let's get the problem child off of here. I would have been, as a ship owner, I'd be like, you know what? Everyone is either going to be, contained here for the next 14 days or, 7 days. Let's do some type of, we're not going to allow you to go out to the rest of the world or whatever. Or like, hey, we're going to bring you all back to the dock and everyone's getting checked out from, some sort of doctor or something. I don't know how that shit works, but nonetheless, there's a very weird update here that I saw it and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and present it today. It says Sloth World Update. Yes, you heard me correct. Sloths, the animal. 50 plus are dead in Orlando. It says documents show many sloths died from stomach-related issues at Sloth World. The Central Florida Zoo shared that Dumpling passed away on April 24th, bringing the total of sloths dead to 55. What? Why are fucking sloths dropping like flies? What's going on here? Anyways, listen. Let's go ahead and get into the call to action real quick, and then we'll get into all the madness. Make sure you guys hit that like button as well as double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. I very much appreciate it. It's what we do Monday through Friday. Make sure you guys subscribe and listen. Of course, we have members only on Saturday morning. Now, speaking of members, please consider becoming a member, starting only at $3.99 a month. Making sure we're not breaking the bank out there with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So thank you guys for becoming members and staying members. Little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV, where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time breaking news, as well as the campaign trail. It's a great way to get a hold of me one-on-one. And we also have a Discord server for you guys. Go down into the video description down below, and that's where the invite link for the Discord is, where we continue the conversation. And last but not least, all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, and membership signups are, of course, all going to be presented live and shouted out onto the show. But if you guys would like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut that they take from your own account, we have these platforms that are scrolling around the screen at any time. You guys can donate to those, and I get 100% of the proceeds, and I'll read out loud anything that comes our way, just like a normal super chat. So we've got our email up, and we're always scanning, man. All right, great to see everyone in the chat, man. Hopefully everyone's enjoying themselves. Had a wonderful Topless Taco Tuesday, as well as a Cinco de Mayo. I definitely know that I did. I got down with my bad self. But anyways, great to see everyone, man. We got STMC Prez, as well as VC, Virginia Chaos. Good morning to you. We got brother Steve Easy, as well as Miss Lotus. Good morning to you. We got Naomi. As always appreciate you. We got Rabbit of Chaos as well. Charles Darwin from down under over there in Australia. We got Cameron as well. Thank you all for being here. We got Chasing Ghost, as well as brother So Loud from the Boondocks of North Carolina. Great to see you, bro. Let's see. We got Unbroken. Great to see you. Good morning. Good morning. We got JN. See you in here as well. Good morning. Rocking our way down as fast as human possible. We got Kieran. Great to see Kieran up in the building. Shout out to you, by the way. Good morning. Great to see you. We got Pablo as well. Good morning. Let's see. We're rolling our way down as fast as possible, man. I see you as well, Super Slav, or whatever. Anyways, let's go ahead and get right into the craziness this morning. We're going to start off with cruiser stranded after Hantavirus breakout, 3 dead and 7 ill. This is the first ship that is in, discussion here. And there's a whole separate case going on at the same time. So we've got 2 kind of ship stories here, but this is the first one. And this happened from yesterday, or it was being reported on yesterday, and we're bringing it to you guys today.
A deadly virus outbreak. Now, we're taking a look here at a social media post courtesy of the Associated Press. It says this: a rodent-borne illness is suspected of causing an outbreak aboard a cruise ship that has killed 3 people.
What's up, Charlotte? Good morning.
That specific illness, called the Hantavirus, and the AP goes on to say that about 150 people are still aboard that cruise ship waiting for help. It is still docked off the coast of Cape Verde in the Atlantic Ocean. 3 passengers died again, and then 3 other people.
That's right, brother Hardwire. You know the deal. Good morning.
Were left seriously ill. Now, the MV Hondius, a Dutch ship on a weeks-long polar cruise from Argentina to Antarctica and several isolated islands in the South Atlantic, had requested help from local health authorities after making its way there to where it was supposed to be docking on the island of Cape Verde. It's off the west coast of Africa. No one has been allowed to disembark. That's according to the Netherlands-based operator Oceanwide Expeditions and what they had to say in an official statement. We've been following the story closely here at Live Now from Fox, and there's a lot to discuss in terms of what we can expect and possibly what passengers are going through at this time. Joining us next to get into all of the details is Dr. Celine Gounder. She's the editor-at-large.
What's up, Archie? I see you as well, saying good morning, Albuquerque, New Mexico in the house. Shout out to New Mexico, by the way.
Health at KFF Health News, infectious disease specialist, and also an epidemiologist.
Wow, brother Steve Yeezy coming in with the 28 months, saying, hey, fucking ease up. Hey, absolutely, let's get it. Now, I can't do the actual voice like like our man. I can't do the high pitch, but hey, ease up. Absolutely. Appreciate the 28 months, man. That goes a long freaking way. Always appreciate you. Yeah, I can't do the young dopey, I just can't do it.
Good morning, Celine. Good to have you on.
Good morning, Krell.
So pretty scary situation, at least from how we're looking at it here on land. So first off,
Sick Bastard. Also, big thank you to Sick Bastard and Motorbomb Virginia for rating us this morning, showing a lot of love from the coffee crew. We always appreciate those guys.
Down to the basics for our viewers. Hantavirus. What is it? What are its symptoms? And really, what is the possibility of death once someone contracts that virus?
Hantavirus is really a family of viruses that are transmitted by rodents. So mice, rats, usually it's transmitted when rat droppings or mice droppings or urine are aerosolized into the air. Sometimes it's when people are.
Yeah, I just can't do the high pitch, but hey, I mean, maybe I could if I wasn't just just woke up, I had a rough night last night, partied a little hard, it was Cinco de Mayo, I was getting down with my bad self. Shit.
Cleaning something up, say in the garage or the basement. And that causes hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, in other words, a severe viral infection of the lungs. It can also cause kidney failure, heart failure. And so the symptoms can be wide ranging, but very often they're pulmonary symptoms, lung symptoms.
So yeah, you're basically going to get it and feel it in the lungs.
What's interesting about that is that with these symptoms,
Now, believe it or not, like I told you guys, the hantavirus thing, I really didn't know shit about it until I heard about it yesterday. And then I looked into it. Like I actually looked, how do you even get hantavirus? And then I found out it was from rat droppings, being airborne essentially.
reading up on it as well, they kind of look like the flu at first. So really distinctly, when does that
Brother
change?
Beezer, good
Turning
morning.
From, okay, I possibly have the flu, I possibly have the cold, to now I know that I have something that's potentially way more dangerous. I mean, what kind of testing is even done to figure that out?
Well, it's done in the context of an exposure usually. So hantavirus is exceedingly rare. To put that into perspective, in the United States, we've had 900 cases in 30 years.
900 total cases in 30 years in the United States. Wow. That's a very, very small amount.
And most of those cases have been in the Four Corners area in the United States.
So
we don't go testing everyone for hantavirus. You really need to have had an exposure, a risk factor.
You know what's funny, Steve Easy, is I worked on ships, or well, I worked on the water. I shouldn't say ships. I worked on tugboats. I worked on barges, and I would fuel ships going in and out, blah, 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 all this shit. And I used to even fuel the cruise ships that were over there in LA, Long Beach. And I never to this day have taken a cruise, ever. It never appealed to me. I'm like, I'm already out here every fucking day. I don't need to be cruising on a cruise ship. I don't need that.
In order to prompt testing. So in this case, we know people have been exposed on the cruise ship, and people who are developing symptoms are being tested.
So I'm glad you mentioned this, the people who were exposed on the cruise ship. It leads me to a social media post here, courtesy of Reuters. Following this closely, they included a video of one of the passengers as he was speaking about his experience.
No one's worrying.
They say this: medics were working to evacuate 2 people with symptoms of the deadly hantavirus after a suspected outbreak on a cruise ship held off the West Africa, according to officials. Again, 150 people still on that ship. So let's get into possibly the challenges, Celine, when you have an outbreak of a virus that could potentially be deadly and people are stuck on a cruise ship. I mean, how unique is that situation in terms of...
It's not really unique. There's been breakouts in the past. I remember when COVID was first becoming like a big thing. And the breakouts that would happen on these cruise ships was insane.
Containment and making sure that people stay safe.
Well, keeping people on the ship, essentially quarantining them on the ship, is part of preventing transmission, because we don't know for sure, is this the typical hantavirus that is caused by aerosolization of rodent droppings and urine, or is it, there is a rarely a person-to-person spread. The type of hantavirus involved is called the Andes virus. That Andes virus is found in Argentina and Chile. This boat left from Argentina.
What's up, Rob's neighbor? We got Carrie from Rob's neighbor. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat, my man.
So we don't yet know, are we dealing with the usual hantavirus? Are we dealing with Andes virus? And until then, you really do want to keep people on the ship to prevent further onward transmission. But as you can imagine, that's super scary.
Brother
You're in the middle
good morning.
of cluster of cases of a highly deadly virus and don't know how those other people...
Man, we do have all the legends popping in. We got Alwine as well. Great to see you in the chat, my man. Good morning.
I really feel badly for those
Happy
who are
whip
stuck on
him
the
out
ship
Wednesday.
right now.
You mentioned there the different places that this cruise ship has gone to, specifically Argentina, which is possible if that's where this virus was first contracted. Earlier today, I was listening into a briefing from the United Nations. They also expressed a similar perspective, that they don't think it started on the ship, but more likely somewhere that they had docked previously. But this cruise ship not only went to Argentina, it went to a lot of other isolated, smaller islands. Does that add...
What's up, Tommy? Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat, my man.
Another layer of complexity when trying to track down the origin of the virus?
Possibly. If there were rodents in some of those other islands, that would also raise some questions. Those are islands that are also unlikely to have people, if any.
5150, shout out.
At all.
Good to see you.
So it does help narrow in
Are we not
certain
men?
Respects. But, big picture, what needs to happen here is a really thorough investigation. So beyond testing and typing which type of hantavirus, they need to identify the source of transmission, the mechanism of transmission, and then...
Well, man, you guys need to look around for them fucking rats. I mean, listen, if you get it from rat droppings and rat piss becoming airborne, y'all need to figure out where the fuck those rats are on your ship. Get it together.
In addition, tracking what happened aboard the ship, where there's certain safety lapses.
Yes, let's get the likes up, everybody. You don't have to like all the craziness happening, but you guys can like it for me and what we're doing here. Double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. Thank you, guys.
Are there issues with the rodent infestation on the ship?
Steve Posey.
This is really where public health agencies step in. And unfortunately, we're dealing with our own CDC, which has been gutted. The U.S. has pulled out of the World Health Organization. And those are precisely the folks who get called in a situation like this.
Yeah, this is listen, if there's only been 900 cases in the United States reported in the last 30 years. This is a big deal, actually. They when I saw this being posted on social media, I think it was not yesterday, it was the day before I saw it on social media. I actually left a comment on, on like World Star or something like that. And I said, yeah, you motherfuckers going to have to figure that shit out. You guys aren't docking. Go to Anchor. Go figure it out. You know what I mean? Don't bring that shit back over here. Real quick, we got Joseph up in here. Always appreciate our favorite Snow Mexican up there in Canada. Great to see you in the chat, my man. As well as Official Code. Absolutely. God bless. Great to see you, as well as Wildcard. You guys are all legends coming in thick this morning. Let's get it.
I'm glad you mentioned some more of these public health agencies. By the way, this video on the screen is a video of the ship. You see some people docking it just to try to take samples, to take a look at some of the cruisers that are still stranded there. Plus, they give you an inside look as to what the cruise looks like on the interior. Going back to public health agencies, obviously, you hear something of an outbreak, and a lot of people go back to coronavirus. Now, that became a global epidemic. With Hantavirus, we're not trying to scare people.
Yeah, that's super interesting, Douglas.
At this moment, there is no real risk to the general public, at least what we've
Jimmy
heard
Mac.
from health officials. But Celine, walk us through how health officials decide whether some type of outbreak is cause for global concern or something that people really shouldn't worry about just yet.
Well, first of all, if this ends up being the form of hantavirus that's transmitted through exposure to rodent droppings or urine, then it is very difficult for this to spread widely. When we think,
because it has a difficult time actually spreading from person to person. That's the thing, is transmitting it to somebody else is actually harder than any normal viruses.
About pandemic viruses, we're usually talking about something that is respiratory transmission in nature. And as I mentioned, Andes could be, however, it still requires really long, prolonged, close contact. And that's not what we see with a pandemic virus. A pandemic virus, like avian flu,
it wildly spreads. And I mean, you could barely just be around, and you could walk by somebody and catch it, like, for instance, COVID and stuff like that. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on. Let's go into Carrollton, Texas shooting. 2 dead and 3 hurt. Police provide an update after 2 people were killed and 3 others were left hurt due to a shooting. A large police presence was seen at a shopping center off of Highway 121. Let's go ahead and bring that up real quick. We'll quickly get into it, see what they've got to say about it, and move from there.
Okay, does that work for everybody? All right. Good afternoon. I am Carrollton Police Chief Roberto Arredondo, Roberto Arredondo. At approximately 9:57 a.m., Carrollton police officers were dispatched to the 4,000 block of State Highway 1.
What's up, Jason? By the way, good morning to you, as well as Texas Gidget. Great to see you in the chat. Shout out to Texas.
21, following reports of a shooting with possible victims. Upon arrival, officers located victims of apparent gunshot wounds. There are 2 confirmed deceased individuals and 3 in stable condition. Officers are currently working multiple scenes across the K-Town Plaza, which is behind us, located at State Highway 121 and Hebron Parkway.
Wow, brother So Loud coming in with the 10 spot saying, hit the like on both sides. Why not? Absolutely. Thank you very much, brother So Loud, my man out there in the boondocks in North Carolina. Always appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for the support.
As well as the shopping center to the south, known locally as Koreatown, I-35, and the George Bush Turnpike, related to this investigation. The suspect was identified as Sung Han Ho, Asian male, 69. And officers have successfully taken him into custody after a short foot chase at the secondary location in Carrollton. S-E-U-N-G.
Let's go, Rabbit. Let's get it.
Han, H-A-N, Ho, H-O. Currently, there is no immediate threat to the public.
Well, that's good.
Victims were meeting with the suspect for a business purpose. This is not a random act of...
Wait, they were meeting up for business, and it went sideways, and then literally fires off at 5 people, 2 dead and 3 injured. Why?
Gunfire.
Over what? It's okay. I mean, what kind of business we talking? Are we talking like T-shirts or something? Or are we talking about fucking moving drugs? I mean, what's going on here?
The investigation remains active and ongoing. The Carrollton Police Department will continue to keep the public updated as additional information becomes available. Right now, as we continue to investigate the details, the city of Carrollton and our partner agencies extend our deepest heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims who have perished. We continue to lift up and support those who have healing ahead of them. Kelton Police and the Kelton Fire Rescue would like to thank the Louisville Police Department, the Texas Department of Public Safety, Denton County Sheriff's Office, Denton County Constable's Office, FBI, and ATF. I'll take a few questions.
So, Chief, you said this was a meeting, a business meeting of sorts. Did Mr. Ho, was he a tenant in one of these strip centers or what? Was he evicted or what, sir?
We're still working on the exact details. We don't know exactly what the meeting was about, but we understand it to be a business relation.
It's business. That's right. Motherfucker was doing some business.
I cannot at the moment.
What's up, No? Great to see you in the chat, my man. Good morning.
No, ma'am, it is not a hate crime. We always work very well with our federal partners, and it just goes to show you how supportive not only our federal partners, but our local agencies are of each other. Yeah, we won't be releasing that at the moment, but as more information comes available, I'll get more information to you.
Thank you for that, Cameron.
Yes, we have all are adult, and I don't have the gender at the moment.
That's right, River. Happens all the time on these kind of things, questions.
Yes, so the suspect was taken into custody at the second location. Yeah, our undercover officers, using our police technology, were able to find the suspect's vehicle and determine the current location. Upon their arrival, they identified him. A short foot pursuit took place, and he was taken into custody without incident. I'm sorry? In the shopping center behind us. I'll take two more questions.
He's quick.
Yeah, I can tell you that this was an incident where it was not a random act. It was a known business relationship. We're still identifying, trying to work to identify what caused his actions. And as more information becomes available, we'll get that to you.
Chief,
last question.
Were you able, through the victims, to identify him, to know who you were looking for, to know what kind of vehicle he was in?
That is correct.
What's up, brother TVT? Good morning.
I don't know. Last final question right here. Okay, from here you would go across Hebron and take a right on Old Denton, go south on Old Denton. Right before you arrive at the George Bush Turnpike, on the west side of the road there, you'll see the Koreatown area. Okay.
He actually answered way more than I expected.
Guys, thank y'all so much for your support.
Yep, that's it right there. Boom. He actually answered more than I expected there. All right, let's go ahead and bring our attention over to the White House. Yesterday, Marco Rubio actually stood in for Caroline Leavitt. She's out on family leave. So Secretary Rubio speaks from the White House amid Iran conflict and is standing in. And he even says, I'm just winging this shit. And I got to be honest, I got a lot of respect for the way that Marco actually handled totally objectively, the way that he handled the media as well as the questions. I thought that it was very impressive, actually. So there we go.
I'll have a brief remarks here, and then we'll get to your question.
Oh, you know what we haven't done? Shit. We got to do the money part, man. We got to do the money part. Absolutely. Let me go ahead and find it.
All right, just get the money part done.
Of course it would glitch. Of course.
All right, just get the money part done.
Give me money. Money me. Money now. Me a money needing a lot now.
Perfect.
Denied.
Here we go.
As you know, over the weekend, the president announced this Project Freedom. And the goal of it is to, frankly, if you want to talk about it, it's to rescue like almost 23,000 civilians from 87 different countries that are trapped inside of the Gulf and left for dead in the Persian Gulf by this Iranian regime. You know, for more than 2 months now, these innocent sailors and commercial crew members have been stranded out at sea because Iran is conducting something that's not just criminal. It's criminal for sure, but it's desperate and destructive, this blockade of the Straits of Hormuz. Nations from around the world, the overwhelming majority of whom are not even engaged in any military hostilities, are now at risk not just of losing their cargo, but the lives of their own citizens because of this blockade. These ships, you know, you don't leave.
You got to remember, I forget exactly the amount of people that are out there right now. I think it's 22 or 25,000 people that are basically stranded in the strait on the ships, right? Now, you got to think about when you're out there and now they can't leave or go. They can't go through and they can't leave. How are they, you know, after 2 months, 2.5 months, whatever, you got to understand that these guys start running out of food. And yes, if they were over here in America or any other places, they could order stores and have a small workboat come out there and they can crane some stores for them and they'd be able to eat. But that's not happening in the Strait. So we have a lot of men and women that are out there working that have nothing to do with Iran. A lot of them have nothing to do with United States, actually, for the majority. It's the rest of the world that is feeling this pressure. And I feel bad for the innocent people that are working. I mean, I was one of those guys, you know, and imagine if you got held up like this and now you can't even fucking eat. Yeah, it's an issue, man.
The ship out there for this long, you start running out of food, you start running out of potable water, essential supplies, and they're at the mercy of this piracy. And what it is, it's piracy. And not only that, but some of them have seen, you know, been open fire on and rained down senseless attacks on.
Yes. So, Joseph, this morning they put a pause on them doing the whole project where they were going to go ahead and, you know, Project Freedom and bring ships in and out on a very small, little narrow part of the strait. Trump actually decided to hold off on that because Pakistan actually asked them to go ahead and wait on that, just give it a little bit longer. And so based off of what Pakistan told Trump and his administration, they're holding off. And that just came out this morning.
On several civilian ships.
We're going to get to that too.
So frankly, the way to put it, these are innocent bystanders. These are countries that and ships and so forth that have nothing to do with any of this and nonetheless are being caught in the middle of it and being held hostage merely because Iran could do that, just because of just as the regime brutally slaughtered tens of thousands of their own citizens for the crime of peaceful protest, because they're unhappy with the quality of life or the lack of quality of life in Iran today.
So Bob, believe it or not, the crew members, there's not as many crew members as you would think on cargo vessels or cargo ships, including whether they just be normal cargo or tankers. There is a different mandate of how many people you can have on when you're dealing with a tanker compared to a cargo ship. But it's not as many as you would think. It's like, I don't know, like 18 total from head down, you know, like 20, 25. It's not as many as you would think. But great to see you in the chat, Brother Bob, up there in Canada.
Sitting ducks, they're isolated, they're starving, they're vulnerable. And at least 10 sailors have already died as a result of the civilian sailors. So already many nations privately and some publicly have asked the United States to help free their ships and to restore freedom of navigation in the Straits of Hormuz and this critical artery of global trade. And so President Trump, as he always does, stepped up and answered the calls for their help. And he's directed the United States military to guide these stranded ships to safety, to provide a protective bubble under which they can operate and move.
Hey, Murray, I really appreciate that. Thank you for showing a little love and hitting that, subscribe button as well as hitting that like button. I very much appreciate you guys.
Product and get themselves out of there and out of harm's way. And this is the first step towards reopening the strait and bringing this regime's last-ditch act of economic arson.
That's just being what's reported, my man. That's all. I'm not telling you what ought be or what should be. I'm just saying what is being reported.
To a close. We're doing it not only because we were asked, but because we're the only ones who can. We have the power to take the steps that we've taken now.
We got Mr. Al Patterson coming in hot on the Cash App. I'm sorry that usually I'm starting to get like good at like always looking, but Mr. Al comes in hot with the 420, by the way. Always appreciate the little love on the Cash App, saying for left-handed tobacco. Yes, sir. Let's go ahead and get down with our back. We're 33 minutes in and we haven't even sparked up. What are we doing over here, dude? We're struggling. Let's get it. Here we go. All right, now we're ready to rock and roll. Facts. Thank you, Mr. Al. I always appreciate you.
Under President Trump, the United States will help our friends. We're going to stand up to rogue regimes like the one in Tehran, and we're going to be unashamed to use our power and our abilities to project military power in the service of our national interest above all else. Now, what's really important for you to report and for everyone to understand?
It would be a lot. I mean, I actually have the strait here. Let me go ahead and bring it up for you, Bob. It's a lot. It is a lot. So all these ships, basically everything is blockaded from the each side of the mouth of the strait, which is what Iran has locked all these ships in here. So you see all these ships, these are all locked in here, or vessels on this side of the left side of the strait and then the right side of the strait. And so I don't know how many in total are out there, but it is a lot. And for it to add up to 20,000 is definitely a lot. But you've got a lot of, I mean, even all these guys aren't going in and out. So you've got all these guys as well. Yeah, it's a fucking mess. This is I mean, it's just terrible. Absolutely fucked up. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's go ahead and bring it back to this. Unfortunately, I don't know the direct answer like, oh, it's this many ships, but I can at least show you a visual there. Here we go.
This is not an offensive operation.
And that was live, by the way. That was live this second. But anyways.
This is a defensive operation. And what that means is very simple. There's no shooting unless we're shot at first. Okay, we're not attacking them. We're not. But if they're attacking us or they're attacking a ship, you need to respond to that. You're not going to let some fast boat come up on the ship and shoot it up.
What's up, David? Good morning.
We've been successful at it. I don't know what the exact number is, but I know a number of those fast boats have now been targeted and will continue to be. If they pose a threat to our forces, we'll shoot down drones, we'll shoot down missiles, but it's defensive in nature. This is defensive. So if you hear stories about attacks and launching of firing back and forth, it's not back and forth.
Thank you, Douglas.
We are only responding if attacked first. This is a defensive operation, and that's what's occurring here. Just about the importance of the Straits for a moment. This is approximately a quarter of the world's oil trade, along with significant volumes of fuel and fertilizer that operate through the Straits of Hormuz. The Iranian regime cannot be allowed to dictate who uses this vital waterway. I don't think this is also being reported enough. Maybe you are reporting. I don't read everyone. I don't know many damn outlets here. I don't know who you all are, but I mean, I know who some of you are, but I don't know all of you are. But I will say this about it. This is an international waterway. Okay, this is an international waterway. And international law is very clear. And I love it because everybody always talks about international law. And this international law on this is very clear. International waterways, no country can control them. There is no international law that allows you to say, I'm going to put mines in an international body of water and I'm going to blow up ships that don't listen to us and try to go through. That's what Iran is doing. This is a criminal act. And someone needs to do something about it. Something needs to be done. It's completely illegal, completely illegitimate, and completely unacceptable. And that's why the United States military is guiding stranded commercial ships safely through the strait and is working to restore freedom of navigation and putting an end to these efforts to hold the global economy hostage. So far, as a proof of concept and as a proof of function, 2 U.S. flag merchant ships have successfully transferred the Strait of Hormuz in the first stages of this project, and they're now safely on their way. The U.S. military is deploying the necessary assets to extend this defensive umbrella over commercial shipping. But there should be no mistake. And as I said this already, this is a defensive operation. I want to reiterate that point. This is important to understand. If no shots are fired at these ships.
Yeah, better, just so you know, the reason why it's international is because the strait is not owned by anybody. It's not owned by Iran. Just because they're right there doesn't mean they own it. Neither does Oman. It's an international passage. It's a shipping lane. So that's what
no shots are fired at us. We're not firing shots. But if we're fired on, we will respond, and we will respond with lethal efficiency. The assets supporting this project, by the way, include guided missile destroyers, over 100 land and sea-based aircraft, multi-domain unmanned platforms, and 15,000 of the finest military service members.
Brother Wildcard, good morning.
These forces have already destroyed, as I told you earlier, I thought it was 6, it's 7 Iranian fast boats that failed to heed our warnings. And by fast boats, we're talking about, some of these things look like Boston whalers. Okay, so these are not like Navy ships. But nonetheless, they come fast at these boats, try to swarm them, try to harm them. We're not going to let that happen. So 7 of them now sit at the bottom of the sea, along with, by the way, the rest of Iran's Navy. That's where you can find their Navy today. And we're going to continue to systematically clear this passageway through the straits to restore freedom of navigation. Now, while this project steadily progresses, Operation Economic Fury, continues to impose maximum pressure on the Iranian regime and what remains of their already frail economy. Today,
you got to remember, he is the liquor. And when he is on the liquor, he thinks he is the law. Good times.
Inflation in Iran is 70%, and their currency is in total and complete freefall. U.S. sanctions enforcement is stepping up. It's moving in lockstep with the naval blockade to degrade Iran's capacity to generate, to move, and repatriate revenue. It directly targets the regime's primary revenue lifelines. The blockade alone is costing Iran as much as $500 million a day in lost revenue. 90% of total Iranian trade has been halted, causing permanent damage to Iran's oil infrastructure as wells are forced to shut in. Again, all of this is in response to their piracy.
Yo, Dark Soul, it's been a minute. Great to see you in the chat, by the way. Hopefully you're enjoying your Whip 'em Out Wednesday. I definitely know that we are over here. By the way, I just ask everybody if we can get the likes up. Very much appreciate it. We have 135 people in here between both the live streams. Make sure you guys double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. You guys don't have to like all the craziness, but you guys can like it for me and what Insane Wheels does here. So thank you for that.
That you have these straits, and they blow up any ship that moves, and the only ships they get to go through are theirs. You can't have a situation in which the straits are close to everyone else, but they benefit from the piracy. That can't happen. That's why the blockade is in place, and that's why these sanctions are crippling them. Any foreign financial, and by the way, Treasury is now identifying and cutting off every dollar of revenue that's flowing to this regime. And so, look, any foreign financial institution or commercial actor that enables Iran's sanctions evasion is going to face secondary sanctions exposure and a loss of access to the U.S. financial system. As President Trump has said, and the facts clearly bear out, the United States of America holds all the cards. There is no scenario here in which, if they decide to join a ladder of escalation, they wind up getting the last say. But our
shithawk, Randy,
is for these straits to be open to the way they're supposed to be open, back to the way it was. Anyone can use it. No mines in the water. Nobody paying tolls. That's what we have to get back to, and that's the goal here. Every day the conflict continues, however, our leverage on Iran will continue to increase, and their position will continue to weaken, especially as the blockade really begins to bite in conjunction with the sanctions. So, look, the time's come for Iran to make a sensible choice. And it's not easy for them to do that, obviously, because they have a fracture in their own leadership system. And apart from that, I mean, the top people in that government are, to say the least, they're insane in the brain. And so we need to address that, and it's difficult because it's hard to get past that in their system. But it's important for them to make a sensible choice and the one that's right for their people. The president, our president, has proven time and again that his preference is peace. But Iran must accept the reality of the situation and come to the negotiation table and accept terms that are good for them, but ultimately good for the world. The diplomatic path, if there's a real diplomatic path, I'm not sure there's going to be one, but if there's a real diplomatic path and we continue to explore it, Steve and Jared are working on that very hard. If there is one there, it could be one that leads them to reconstruction, to prosperity, and to stability, and to not posing a threat to the world. The alternative is growing isolation, economic collapse, and ultimately total defeat. I know what the right choice is for Iran. I hope that the people over there making decisions will make the right one. The last point I would make, and it really is important for them to understand this, is they really shouldn't test the will of the United States, at least not under President Donald Trump.
Shit.
He's proven time and again that he will back up what he says. And if they test him, ultimately they will lose. The hard way, the easy way, the long way, the short way, they will lose. And with that, it's time for your questions. So
he knew it was coming. Now it's a packed house in there, by the way. It's like full on packed out in there right now. So you're going to hear them screaming over each other trying to get their answers. Hold on.
I'm Catherine Barrett, I'm an independent journalist. Secretary Rubio, have you seen any recent indications that Iran is willing to give up its nuclear?
I got you, Cameron. Right after, we got to do that right after we do this bit with Marco.
Your weapons program that is credible, verifiable, and that would lead to an immediate de-escalation.
Well, look, this is a long-standing problem for them, right? I mean, they have always said they don't want a nuclear weapon. That's because they've always said that. They just don't mean it. And why do you say, well, how do you know they don't mean it? Well, we don't mean it because they're doing all the things, and historically have tried to do all the things that you do if you want a nuclear weapons program. For example, they innovate.
What's up, Extra Surprise? Good morning to you as well.
Try to innovate long-range delivery missiles that now, in some cases, are capable of reaching much of Europe. They build these large underground centrifuges for enrichment activity. There are countries in the world that are involved in the enrichment business, but these guys do it in mountains and in caves and in hiding. They've always had secret components of their nuclear program undisclosed to the world. And we know for a fact that they retain highly enriched uranium at 60%, that they did so. And that.
Hey, listen, Rabbit of Chaos, I used to be that way where my socks had to match. But you know what's cool is when you become amputated, you only wear one sock. I don't know if you guys know this, but I don't wear a sock on my amputated leg part. So I only wear one sock a day. So, it's great when you do your laundry, like I did laundry yesterday, and you don't have to fold your socks together. You only use one sock a day. So anyways, back to this.
Has no civilian use, none, zero whatsoever. So they have an opportunity here to agree to something that will make it clear that they're not interested in it. One thing is to say we don't want a nuclear weapon. Another thing is to do the things that prove you don't want a nuclear weapon. By the way, the honest truth is because it looks cool, not because of anything else. They actually tell you're supposed to wear a sock even on an amputated leg. You're supposed to. It preserves the actual the rubber / molding, whatever, for the foot. But I like the look of it. I don't know. I'm weird with it. Anyways. Wants is a civilian nuclear program for power plants and stuff like that. There are a lot of countries in the world that have that, and they don't enrich. They import the enriched material. They could have that if that's what they wanted, but they're not acting like that's what they wanted. They're acting like they want a military, nuclear program. That's unacceptable. So that's the process we're engaged in now. To create, that's the object of this diplomacy, is to come up with some level of understanding about what are the topics that they've agreed to negotiate on. We don't have to have the actual agreement written out. And one day this is highly complex and highly technical, but we have.
Real quick, I'm going to pause it there because I thought he was going to be done right there. But Dark Soul, he says, how's JR doing in the polls down there? So right now, as of right this second, he's 4 points ahead. And you got to remember that there's 35% of undecided. So you got to also remember how undecideds have historically worked. They are undecided for a reason. So believe it or not, historically, anywhere from 85 to 90% of all undecideds go to the challenger. Doesn't necessarily go to the incumbent. Now, when I learned that, I was like, oh, wow, like I really didn't put that together. They're undecided because they're undecided for a reason. They don't like the guy that's currently there. And they probably haven't learned enough about JR, at the timing of the poll. Anyways, when it's time up, anywhere from 85% of undecideds to 90% go to the challenger, which is us.
To have a diplomatic solution that is very clear about the topics that they're willing to negotiate on and the extent and the concessions they're willing to make at the front end in order to make those talks worthwhile. That's what Stephen Jarrett and the whole team is working on. And I hope to have good news on it. That's the outcome we would prefer. That's the outcome we would have preferred a year ago. That's the outcome I think most of us would have preferred a long time ago. But that's not the option they've given us, given their activity. All right, there's no way I can figure out who to call on. I'm just going to like press right in the middle, right there. You right there. Yeah. Right in the back row.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'll go to you next. All right, go ahead.
Thank you, Secretary Rubio. Going right. Welcome to the White House.
What's that?
To me, sir?
Yeah, to you. Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have two questions on two separate issues that come
Do they
under...
get two questions for these?
Two questions.
There's a lot of people in here.
That fall under your umbrella.
All right, well, you answer. You can ask me two questions. I'll give you one answer. Go
Thank you very much.
And I'll pick the one I like better.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The first has to do with the blockade. There are lawmakers from both parties who claim the blockade is an act of war. What do you say to that? And my second question has to do with the fuel embargo of Cuba. How long, Mr. Secretary, will that last?
Okay, two things. All right, good. I'll answer both your questions because I like the second one too. The first one on the blockade. And so why do we have a blockade? We have a blockade because they shut down the straits. So I don't know which members of Congress you're talking to, but here's what I would ask them. I would ask everybody here. It's very simple. These guys have shut down the Straits of Hormuz. This is what Iran is saying. We will shut down the straits. No one can go through. No country in the world can go through unless we allow you to go through, and you have to pay us. But our ships can go through, meaning the Iranian ships, as much as they want. That's crazy. Who would agree to that? So how are we going to have a situation where they get to close the straits to everybody?
The answer to that, Prez, is no. I have actively looked to see if there's been any other big reporting on it, and unfortunately, I haven't seen anything. Doesn't mean it's not out there, but I just haven't seen it. So no update on my side about the missing scientists.
And the only people who are allowed to go through there 100% without paying anything are the Iranians. If you do that, they'll keep the straits closed forever. They're trying to make this some new normal. Okay, under no circumstances can we ever allow them to normalize the fact that they get to blow up commercial ships and put mines in the water. So the response to that is we're going to blockade your ships. If everyone's ships are not getting out, your ships are not getting out either. That's not an act of war. That's a defensive measure. It's a counter to what they have decided to do. You know what is an act of war? Putting mines in the water. Why don't the members of Congress, whoever it is complaining about it, they should be all over that. These guys put mines in the water. That alone, mining in the water is illegal, period, under any circumstances, and they've done it. This is crazy stuff, but this is what they've done. On Cuba, oil blockade on Cuba. There's no oil blockade on Cuba per se. Here's what's happening with Cuba, okay? Cuba used to get free oil from Venezuela. Used to give them a bunch of free oil. They would take like 60% of that oil and resell it for cash. It wouldn't even go to benefit the people. So the only blockade that's happened is the Cubans have decided, the Venezuelans have decided we're not giving you free oil anymore. And you can only imagine nowadays, the way oil prices are, no one's giving away free oil, much less to a failed regime. So the problem with Cuba is worse, okay? Their economic model doesn't work. And the people who are in charge can't fix it. And the reason that—
Now, real quick, you want to talk about unfair? Listen, now most men don't get pedicures, but I'm a weirdo. I like pedicures. I haven't got them in a couple of years, to be honest, but I used to really enjoy a pedicure. Anyways, now that I only have one leg, guess what? It's half off, motherfucker. Half off on all pedicures. Can't charge me full price. What the fuck? That's half the job. Anyways.
I can't fix it. It's not just because they're communists. That's bad enough, but they're incompetent communists. The only thing worse than a communist is an incompetent one. And that's what— so incompetent communists run that country. They don't know how to fix it. They really don't.
It's going off on Cuba.
Shores, a failed state. That all
Cuba's leadership, I should say.
Also happens to be friendly territory for some of our adversaries. So it's an unacceptable status quo. I will be addressing it, but not today. Okay. All right, let's go to the front right there.
Secretary Rubio. Yeah. You are going to the Vatican to meet with the Pope. Is this an attempt to smooth things over with the Pope, given the—
No. I'll go ahead and answer that. It actually has nothing to do with Iran or war or any of that, actually.
Between President Trump and Pope Leo.
No, it's a trip we had planned from before, and obviously we had some stuff that happened. And no, look, there's a lot to talk about with the Vatican. I'll give you one example. The Pope just returned from a trip to Africa, where the church is growing very vibrantly, and we have shared concerns about religious freedom, freedom in different parts of the world. We'd love to talk to them about that. The topic of Cuba, we gave Cuba $6 million of humanitarian aid, but obviously they won't let us distribute it.
Here, I'll give it to myself there, Steve Easy.
Why are you gay? You are gay.
Shit.
Distribute it through the church. We'd like to do more. We're willing to give more humanitarian aid to Cuba, by the way, distributed through the church, but the Cuban regime has to allow us to do it. They won't allow us to give their own people more humanitarian aid. And we're willing to do it through the church. So there's a lot to talk about.
And the president recently said that the Pope is endangering a lot of Catholics as a result of his rhetoric around the Iran war. Is that a sentiment?
Well, I don't think that's an accurate description of what he said. I think what the president basically said is that Iran can't have a nuclear weapon because they would use it against places that have a lot of Catholics and Christians and others, for that matter. It goes back to the central point. I think the president, without trying to—
Well, if they're willing to hold up the world hostage on the strait, it is true objectively that they probably would do some holding the hostage of the world with a nuke, right? So that's the argument.
I can characterize it this way. He doesn't understand why anybody— leave aside the Pope— the president and I, for that matter, I think most people, I cannot understand why anyone would think that it's a good idea for Iran to ever have a nuclear weapon. Look what they're doing with the Straits right now. They're holding the whole world hostage. They have these sailors, commercial ships that are going to starve to death out there. They don't care. They don't care that this is melting down the economies around the world, even of their own allies. This is what they're doing with the Straits. What do you think they would do if they had a nuclear weapon? They would hold the world hostage with that nuclear weapon. That's what they would do. They would do exactly to the world with a nuclear weapon what they're doing now with the Straits. And I think the president's point is how anyone cannot see that as an unacceptable outcome and an unacceptable risk is beyond him. It's puzzling. And someone has to do something about it. The difference between this president and like the 6 presidents that preceded him were that he's the only one that's actually been willing to do something about it. Everyone says Iran can't have a nuclear weapon, but you got to do something about it at some point. And he's been willing to address that threat. And that's what he promised he would do when he got elected, by the way, is address threats like this. I wish I knew your name. I apologize. Can you put names?
Yeah, you know, he's not in there dealing with these White House journalists and all that stuff. He's not dealing with these people normally. Caroline knows most of these people by name, probably the entire room. And Marco's like, listen, I don't know anybody's name. You and the fucking blue over there.
Tags on.
Thank
you and the brown.
Who are you with? Who are you with?
I'm with Lodao Media Network.
Okay.
Mr. Secretary, the president has said multiple times that weapons were provided to the Kurdish groups to pass on the Iranian people. However, Kurdish political parties and the regional government says they have not received such.
No, VC. And listen, I've always been somebody, Liz, if I can't pay for something to get me off, okay? Like that, just the act of having to pay for, I need, if I'm going to have that kind of attention, by the way, it's got to be because she wants that shit. I can't do it because of just pleasure, right?
Even some claim these weapons remain
I've always been weird.
In the region. Can you clarify who those weapons were given to and whether you intend to retrieve them or still want to pass to the Iranian people?
Yeah, look, ultimately, what the president is expressing, and I think has repeatedly, is he wished the Iranian people had, look, he's heartbroken by these images. You think about it, you're an Iranian, okay? You're unhappy that your economy doesn't work for you. You don't have freedom. You don't have an opportunity to express yourself. You've got friends that have been shot in the head because they're out protesting. And it's heartbreaking to him to see that these people are abused in this way and have no measures to take against their own government as a result of it. By the way, this goes back, if you guys remember the protests in 2009 where they slaughtered people in the street. This is a vicious regime, guys. Okay, these are people that hang people from cranes in the town square so everyone can see. They continue these executions of people and have continue to do so for.
Yeah, I'm okay paying for, like, let's just say a dinner or something like that. But directly, like, let me show up and pay you cash just to rub me out. Ah, man, I'm just telling you, that's why I've never been into strip clubs. Now, when I'm with the club and stuff like that, of course we show up to strip clubs and all that shit. But guess what? I'm the guy sitting there with a Coke, just sipping on a Coke the entire time, watching all the homies blow their fucking money. And I'm just sitting there just like, I can't get down with it, man. It's not, to me, if she doesn't want to do it, then I don't know, man. I can't pay for it.
Over a decade and a half now. And so I think what the president is expressing is the desire that he wishes the Iranian people had an ability to fight back against some of these things that are happening to them. And I would view that as distinct and separate from the specifics of this operation that was ongoing before it concluded, and certainly different from the operation that's going on now. Right there right behind you, not Colombia, right there. Yes, ma'am.
Not Colombia.
Thank you so much. On Lebanon, are
Yes.
we in a ceasefire or less fire? And the second question, do you think you would be able to achieve an agreement between Lebanon and Israel without risking a civil war in Lebanon? What are you doing to risk? What are you doing to?
No, I got it. I got the gist of the question. So look, here's the challenge with Lebanon, okay? There's no problem between the Lebanese government and the Israeli government. Israel doesn't claim any land in Lebanon belongs to them. And by and large, I think a peace deal between Lebanon and Israel is imminently achievable and should be. The problem with Israel and Lebanon is not Israel or Lebanon, it's Hezbollah. Hezbollah operates from inside of Lebanon.
Now, I gotta admit, I did pull 2 different strippers back when I was in California, and it had nothing to do with me being a customer or any of that shit. That's actually why they ended up liking me, because I was like, they came up to me trying to like do the whole thing. I'm like, nah, you go pay attention to those fellas over there. They'll hook you up with some cash. I ain't fucking around with that shit. And they get all personal. They're like, is it something with me? And then they sit down. They're like trying to talk to you. No, I just don't do any of that
territory.
Shit,
they terrorize and attack Israelis, but they also are inflicting tremendous damage on the Lebanese people. The reason why Lebanon gets attacked by Israel is because of Hezbollah, because Hezbollah is hiding in some house, launching rockets against Israelis, and then they get hit. So what you're seeing now is Israeli responses to either attacks or perceived threats. And this is not new. This has been going on for a very long time. What is our hope? Our hope is to engage the Lebanese and Israeli governments under our mediation at the table to achieve this. And that is having Lebanese armed forces and a Lebanese government, not just with the willingness, but with the capability to begin to challenge Hezbollah and disarm them. Because the Lebanese people are also victims of Hezbollah. And by the way, on the topic of Hezbollah in Lebanon, who is behind Hezbollah? Why do they exist? They're an agent of Iran. If you go through that Middle East and you identify every problem, Hamas, Hezbollah, to some extent the Houthis, obviously, and others, behind every one of these groups is Tehran. So apart from the...
Yes, and also, where does Tehran get all that money to send as well? Not just from oil, but believe it or not, from Daddy Putin.
Nuclear weapons, apart from all these other things, these guys are behind all the bad actors. Hezbollah is a wing. It's an extension of Iranian desire to destabilize the region. So we're very committed to this process. It's not going to be easy. You're asking me a complex question. You know this has been going on for a very long time. It's not going to be easy. We're going to do everything we can to make sure that both sides continue to talk so that progress can be made on some sort of permanent ceasefire that isn't constantly spoiled by Hezbollah and by Hezbollah violence. Right in there. I'm winging it, guys. Okay, right there. Yes, sir.
I'm winging it, guys. I like that.
The Strait of Hormuz.
That's totally my style. I'm like, listen, man, I'm just fucking winging it. I'm here. We're trying.
Are other ships being told it's safer to get back to regular levels, or are we still going to see limits in place for the foreseeable future?
For obvious reasons, I'm not going to broadcast who we're talking to or who we're telling them to move. I mean, we want these operations to be safe, and I think as it unfolds and ships get through, we'll make those announcements after the fact, just for operational security purposes. But the goal here is pretty simple. Establish a zone of transit that is protected by a bubble of the United States, both naval and air assets, and then allow ships who want to move through there and get to market, to begin to increase confidence in the ability to do so. That doesn't happen in 12 hours. It takes time to set up that bubble and gain that confidence, but that's the goal. We have been in touch. We've been in touch, I don't know, with a bunch of different liners about moving. And
yeah, the reason why they actually brought it, Jimmy Mac, the reason why they were enriching to 60% and not necessarily weapons grade up to 90% is because they knew that 60% is actually the perfect place for them to negotiate, you know, and they're able to negotiate a deal off of them at 60% compared to when they're at 90. It's a different conversation.
We're hoping to continue to improve the security situation, and we'll start to see some of that movement, and we'll announce it as it happens after the fact. We're not going to be like broadcasting, hey, tomorrow at 12 ship X is going to be coming through, for obvious reasons, because that degrades the security. But we feel confident we're going to be able to achieve that. Look, it's not going to solve the whole Straits problem. It's going to solve a lot of it, but it's important to challenge what Iran is doing now. Guys, again, if you take anything away today, and I can't tell you what to write, but Iran cannot be allowed to normalize this control of the Straits. It's completely unlawful, illegal. It's outrageous. And every country in the world should be joining us and condemning it and doing something about it. But the United States has stepped up and is trying to do something about it.
Regarding Colombia, Mr. Secretary, we've had several tourists.
I'm sorry. We'll see if we get to Colombia today. Go ahead. You guys have an election now. Why don't you wait till after your election?
Mr. Secretary, Kamago Ross with Daily Mail. I was curious about your meeting with Southcom earlier. There was a map of Cuba behind you. What did you discuss with Southcom about Cuba? And do you have any updates on?
I'm not going to tell you what I discussed with Southcom.
But it had to do something with Cuba.
No, Cuba's in Southcom. You know, it's the closest part. And so the second point, I was there. Our ambassadors were in from the whole Western Hemisphere. I was addressing them, meeting the general who just took command of Southcom, and there happened to be a map of Cuba. And I said, it'd be good if we took a picture in front of that map, because it's like the closest thing in Southcom to the United States. So there it is. We have maps of other countries, huh? No, they didn't have that map there. They only had in the red, right there in the red.
In the red, okay. Cristina de Telemundo, Mr. Secretary. Can I ask you in Spanish, or can I ask
Yeah, you can answer in Spanish. You can ask me. But do I have to translate for them what you ask?
So I'll say it in English, and if you can answer in both languages. Today,
You see, that's smart. There you go.
the webpage of the State Department, and there's still a $25 million bounty on Diosdado Cabello, the Secretary of Interior, for drug trafficking and narco-terrorism. I was wondering if that has been put on hold, or if you're neguating with President Delcy Rodriguez to turn him over.
Yeah, I don't have any updates for you on that. The website is what it is, and that's where it stands. That policy hasn't changed. But guys, let's be mature here a little bit.
Yeah, but it's sped up.
What we're talking about.
Gabriel, look down here. It's sped up at 1.25 because we condense all these stories, like 10, 11, 12 stories into a single hour. We don't sit here for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours reporting news. We send it out, we give it to you guys straight, and then we're out. So it is sped up, though.
El Departamento de Estado sigue considerando a Diosdado Cabello un narcoterrorista y un narcotraficante, como dice en la página del Departamento de Estado.
La política de Estados Unidos en ese tema no ha cambiado, y cuando cambie te dejaremos saber. The policy of the United States on that topic hasn't changed. When it does, obviously we'll inform you, but I don't have any news for you on that today. Right there in the green. I'll get to you. Are you guys all the TV people?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go. I'm learning. They gave me a little map. I don't know where I put it of the people here. Some of you have like red X's. I'm kidding. No, that's not true.
That's hilarious. Yeah, don't call him that motherfucker.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. The average price of gas in the country right now is $4.50. Do you have a thought on how long Americans are supposed to kind of accept this? Do you think it will affect Republicans' majorities in the midterms?
Well, I'm not going to speculate on the politics of it. You can tell me. Look, it's obviously being driven by global events. That was true during the Russia-Ukraine war as well, where you saw that come up. It's one. Look, we don't benefit from the Straits as much as other countries. I don't know if you've seen what the gas prices are like in other parts of the world that are really suffering big time. So we're very fortunate that the United States.
Good morning, Sterling. Great to see you in the chat. Happy Whip 'em Out Wednesday. Great to see you, by the way. We're going to be going into OT today. We're almost there.
I believe right now is like the world's largest net exporter of oil and natural gas as a result, not because of this war, but because we have this capacity. So we've been insulated to some degree. We're obviously still vulnerable to some extent to global prices, and so. But in the end, I mean, we're more insulated than other countries, even though that's not welcome news to Americans that are paying more at the pump, no doubt about it. And it certainly is one of the circumstances of it. There are people that we're predicting would be much higher at this point, but we're not taking that for granted.
Yes, by the way, let's get the likes up. We've got 357 people in here between both live streams. Let's make sure we get the likes up, man. I very much appreciate it. You guys don't have to like all the craziness happening, but you guys can like it for me, what we are doing here at Insane Wheels. So thank you.
Suffice it to say that think about it this way. Everybody needs to think about it this way. If Iran had a nuclear weapon, and they decided to close the straits and make our gas prices like $9 a gallon or $8 a gallon, we wouldn't be able to do anything about it because they have a nuclear weapon. And a nuclear-armed Iran could do whatever the hell they want with the straits, and there's nothing anyone would be able to do about it.
What's up, Fidel? Great to see you, by the way. Good morning.
And that's one of the many reasons, apart from like the massive loss of life in a nuclear strike, why Iran can never have a nuclear weapon.
What's up, Underboss?
So this is an example of if they had a nuclear weapon, they closed the straits and they would tell the world, what are you going to do about it? We have a nuclear weapon. We can attack you with it. That's the world none of us want to leave behind. It won't happen under this president's watch, but some future president and future, and the future Americans will have to deal with this. So just one more example of why these guys can never be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Right there, in the black. Right, you in the black. Yes, ma'am. Where you? No, right there. You both are wearing black. She's closer. No, you don't have black. You have blue on. I'm colorblind, but I know blue and black. Right here. Yes, ma'am. No, you. The first one I called on.
No, you.
Thank you. This is chaos, guys. Go ahead.
Yeah, it looks like fucking chaos for sure. I got to back that up. That's funny. Hold on. In the black. In the black.
In the black. Yes, ma'am. Where you? No, right there. You both are wearing black. She's closer. No, you don't have black. You have blue on. I'm colorblind, but I know blue and black. Right there. Yes, ma'am. No, you. The first one I called on. Thank you. This is chaos, guys. Go ahead.
Welcome to the White House.
Welcome to the White House, that guy said.
Rights in China, and so including religious persecution and forced organ harvesting. So President Trump prepares to meet Xi Jinping next week. Do you expect human rights concerns to be on the table?
Well, we always raise those issues, and they remain true. And I think we've proven in some cases it's most effective to raise them in the appropriate setting. But we always raise those issues. They're important to us, among with others, of course. But those issues remain prominent in our view and in our conversation.
Yes, we're officially in overtime, by the way. So that you know what it means. No tax on tips. No tax on overtime. Let's get the donations rolling. Let's get it. Absolutely.
Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Donate. Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Donate. Maybe you need to donate some freaking money. Donate some freaking.
We got our first victim. We got Sterling Wheel coming in and gifting out a membership, not only helping me, but helping someone in the Insane Wheels family. Very much appreciate that, Sterling Wheel. It adds up very, very quick. I very much appreciate that.
And we'll continue to raise them in the appropriate forums. All right, let's get to the fun. These guys are going to get mad. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Secretary of the Associated Press. You mentioned earlier that some countries have privately and publicly indicated their willingness to help with Project Freedom. Can you say how many have reached out to the U.S. With the offers of help and what kind of capabilities?
Well, I mean, thank you for your question. That's a good question. I mean, multiple countries have said we got to do something about it and fix it.
Is it like dozens or single digits or more than 100?
I don't know. I don't put a number on it. I would just tell you that. Here's what I would say about it. The capabilities is the issue. Okay. A lot of countries would love to do something.
Oh man, there's no pressure on that, by the way. I'm honored with anything at any time. I'm honored with you guys just being here, man, and hitting that like button, really. We got Brother Kel up there in Canada. Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat. Happy Whip 'em Out Wednesday. Let's get it.
Navy, right? Or they can't get there in time, or they can't. Others, are less, that some unfortunately do have a Navy are saying, oh, we'll be involved, but we'll be involved after it's over. Well, after it's over, it's kind of like, that makes sense. So, we'd like to have it. And now, there may be some utility in a post, closure mission. I'm not downplaying that, but I think that's been the challenge. But there are other ways they can help, unique ways that they can help. And I don't want to get into who these countries are for obvious reasons, because they are prepared to help us in certain ways, but maybe don't want that publicly disclosed for no other reason than it impact the foreign policy. It could have some domestic ramifications. But ultimately, I don't want to mislead you. The primary responsibility for this Project Freedom is on the United States because we're the only country that can project power in that part of the world the way we're doing now. We're the only ones that can do it, and we're going to do it as a favor to the world. Understand this. This is a favor to the world because it's their ships that are stranded. It's their fuel supplies that are stranded. By the way, it's their there's humanitarian aid destined for different countries in the world that's stranded in the Persian Gulf right now. It's the fertilizer that they need for their food and crops that's stranded in the Persian, not our fertilizer, their fertilizer. So We want to be helpful, and that's why the president stepped forward, because we're the only ones that can. Frankly, we're the only ones that can.
Mr. Secretary, on the rising oil and gas prices, the president has said that this is a small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon. But 10 weeks in, are we any closer to getting rid of Iran's nuclear material?
Yeah, but look, here's the way to think about Iran, and this is what I described at the very beginning of this. What was Iran's plan? You have to understand what their plan was. Their plan was they were going to build this conventional shield where they would have so many thousands of missiles and drones and rockets that they couldn't be attacked. And behind that conventional shield that they were trying to build, they would then break out and do whatever they wanted with their nuclear program. They no longer have that conventional shield. Okay, we told you guys from the very beginning, and we're very consistent in this messaging. The operation that has concluded was going to destroy their Navy. They have no Navy left. They don't. Not a Navy. They have small boats and Boston whalers, but they don't have a Navy left. They don't have an Air Force. I challenge you.
They got a Boston whaler. Shit, that motherfucker.
The last time you read or heard about an Iranian jet flying anywhere? They don't have an Air Force. Their missile launching capability has been substantially degraded, and their industrial base, their defense industrial base, has been severely, severely damaged. So their ability to build a shield behind which they could hide their nuclear program was wiped out. That's a very substantial achievement, and that was the purpose of this operation from day one.
Their nuclear material in order for this war to end.
Well, that's one of the topics that needs to be discussed. I don't know about. I think you're linking it. The operation is over. Epic Fury, as the president notified Congress, we're done with that stage of it. Okay, we're now on to this project of freedom. As far as a negotiation is concerned, I think the president's been clear that part of the negotiation process has to be.
Oh my God. Real quick, Whirlwind. It is on 1.25 times playback speed, so I have them played up a little bit faster to get through this.
Not just the enrichment, but what happens to
I do with all my
that's
stories.
buried deep somewhere that they still have access to if they ever wanted to dig it out. That has to be addressed, and that's being addressed in the negotiation. I'm not going to go further on what progress has been made on that topic because I don't want to endanger the negotiations, but suffice it to say that the president and this entire team is aware of the centrality of that question, and that will have to be addressed one way or the other. Right there.
Yeah, but there's no tax dollars. Your claim, by the way, Hugo or whatever, your claim is spending money for their ballroom. Well, that's all being donated by private interest, right? So it's coming from companies. There's even some overseas money, all that stuff, but there is no tax dollars. So you're not paying for it.
Yes. Thank you.
Secretary, I have another two-part question for you.
Okay.
First, are you taking part in those negotiations that you just detailed there? And then secondly, President Trump has made it clear that the U.S. doesn't rely on the Strait of Hormuz. So why should Americans even care about Project Freedom and these shipping tankers going through?
Well, I think on the second point is the one I want to address first, and that is why should Americans care and why it matters to us? Because ultimately these things have an impact on the global economy, which ultimately has an impact on our economy in the long term. That's number one. Number two, because if we live in a world where a rogue state like this Iranian regime is allowed to claim as a new normal control of our international shipping lane, it will not be long before you see that happen in multiple shipping lanes around the world. I can identify for you six or seven vital shipping lanes around the world that some countries can decide, guess what? If Iran was able to do it, we're going to do it too.
Whirlwind, this is the last time I'm going to, say anything to you. If you want me to continue to respond to you, you can send me money. But yeah, I'm sorry. You're going to go ahead and look up the facts. Go ahead and quote unquote fact check me. But your opinion is not correct. It's not a single tax dollar is being spent on this. This is why they can go around Congress and not get congressional approval, is because it is all from private donations. It is not coming from any taxpayer, including myself.
We're not going to start charging tolls, and it'll get closer and closer to us. That's unacceptable.
I know you don't like that, but it is what it is.
There's a lot of time and energy been invested behind the idea that international waters are free for the free flow of goods. The stuff we make in this country and export has to go through international shipping lanes. And for us to live in a world where a country can decide now we own the international shipping lane and you have to pay us if you want to use it, that is a normal that we will never be able to accept. And that's what the Iranians are trying to get us to do. So we're doing two things about it, and we haven't talked about the second one enough. The second thing we're doing is we're going to the UN. Everybody loves the UN, right? We're trying to go to the UN, and we're saying, okay, countries of the world, condemn this. Say that it is wrong for you to put mines there. It is wrong for you to shoot at commercial vessels. Guys, that's what we're talking about here. These guys are bombing commercial vessels. They're not bombing naval vessels. They're bombing commercial tankers. It's just outrageous. That needs to stop, and it needs to end. And if it doesn't, then the world should be diplomatically and economically.
Yeah, and that's the whole thing. We're not talking about the bunker. We're talking about the ballroom.
Isolating Iran as well. But if we live in a world where global shipping lanes can be taken over by countries, that'll have a direct impact on Americans in the short and the long term. And we can't let it start by Iran doing it. And we're the only ones that can do anything about it. All right. Right there. Go ahead. Yes.
Mr. Secretary, does the president intend to press Beijing on its Taiwan policy when he visits China next week?
I'm sure Taiwan will be a topic of conversation. It always is. As you know, we understand the Chinese understand our position on that topic. We understand theirs. And I think both parties got without,
to answer that, Joseph, is because you don't necessarily need an army or a navy or any of that or an air force to go ahead and secure the strait. It basically comes down to just having munitions. such as missiles and drones. And because they're right there on the coast, they can launch anywhere. And so because of that, they're shutting it down in the aspect of, well, they're not going to cross and continue because of the risk of, if they go through the strait, there's a risk of mines that are out there right now. And B, the insurance companies that are insuring the cargo are no longer going to insure the cargo if they continue. So there's multiple reasons and layers as to why the ships are stalled, for sure.
Ahead of myself of what will happen in the talks, but I think both countries understand that it is neither one of our interests to see anything destabilize happen in that part of the world. We don't need any destabilizing events to occur with regards to Taiwan or anywhere in the Indo-Pacific. And I think that's to the mutual benefit of both the United States and the Chinese.
Kara Kashno from Lindell TV. Thank you for taking my question today. How does the State Department...
What happened? Why is everybody giggling? What happened? Oh, I'm sorry.
And that's a good question, Joel. That is a good question. And trust me, I have mixed emotions about that, for sure.
Okay.
I don't think they are. I hope not. But I'm Kara from Lindell TV, and nice to ask you a question today, sir. How does the State Department interpret the president's recent remarks when he said, quote, the Iranian people need to have guns, and I think they're getting some guns, end quote? What did he mean, and do those comments relate to any ongoing or potential U.S. actions like supplying those weapons?
Well, I think it goes back to the question I was asked a moment ago. I think the president thinks it's heartbreaking that the Iranian people are abused by this regime the way they are.
Yeah,
In the end, I mean, this regime is not... Guys, I know I've said this. I think I said this in my hearing before the Senate when I got confirmed. I don't know of any country in the world where there's a bigger difference between the people and the people who run the country. Okay, this country is run by radical Shia clerics. And that's not where Iran and the Iranian people are. Now, they may be Shia, but they're not radicals and they're not clerics. And they just want a normal life and a regular life. And in many ways, a very cosmopolitan country with an incredible history and incredible legacy and the like. So there's this huge divide between the people of Iran, whom we sympathize with, and who the president sympathizes with, because they're the ones suffering. Look, the world is a victim of Iran, okay? The world is a victim of Iran because they're terrorists, because of what they're doing now in the Straits. But the people of Iran are daily victims of the regime, and the president has deep sympathy for what they're going through. And I think he's just expressing that sympathy and that frustration that they don't have the ability to do more to get rid of this regime that has crushed this country and isolated it from the world, which is a country that shouldn't be isolated from the world because its people are phenomenal. All right.
This is the last question we'll take right here.
Like a dice. Go ahead. Yeah. No, right there, because I'm going to Italy.
We still have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stories to get through after this. Holy shit.
He's Italian. I know him. He used to cover Capitol Hill. You're Italian,
serious,
right?
OT today.
For many years. Okay.
Mr. Secretary. So I have 2 short questions for you.
Oh, damn, 2 questions.
First, as you head to the Vatican and Italy, how do you view the Pope's global role amid current geopolitical shift? And what are your objectives in Italy? Is this trip tied to recent remarks by the president suggesting Italy is not being supported as expected? And the second one is about the Hezbollah in Lebanon. On a recent interview on Fox News, you raised some concern
It's
about
sped up to 1.25.
stronger vetting within the Lebanese armed forces. What do you make? Can you elaborate a little bit?
I've answered the first one about the Vatican. Look, I mean, the Pope is obviously the vicar of Christ, is a Roman Catholic, but he's also the head of a nation state and it's an organization that has a presence in over 100-something countries around the world. And we engage with the Vatican quite a bit because they're present in many different places. I've already outlined to you 2 examples. We work with
Shades, that's a very arrogant and ignorant comment.
Catholic Church on the distribution of humanitarian aid in Cuba. We share with the Catholic Church a concern about the
What's up, Roger? Good morning.
liberty, the
Shout out to my
persecution of
man.
Christian minorities, and also the challenges that are being faced by Christians in Africa, where the Pope just recently visited. So we have a lot to talk about with them, and I engage with them quite a bit on that front. So the trip is really not tied to anything other than the fact that it would be normal for us to engage with them, and other Secretary of States have done that in the past. On the second point about Lebanon,
Thank you, Gundam, by the way. And listen, for all the shit talkers, I mean, listen, it is what it is. I'm over here hanging out, snacking on my big ass sandwich.
Man, motherfuckers talk all the shit they want. But you see me, I'm sitting up here snacking on this big ass sandwich, not getting a fuck. Kiss my dick, motherfucker.
Actual factuals. All right.
So a question that was asked earlier, and what was the Italian part?
About the expectation that the president...
Oh, no, look, I mean, the Italians have been involved for some time in training the police and training their forces, so I would love to hear their input on it. And in the way, look, we welcome everybody's help eventually. What has to happen in Lebanon, what everybody wants to see, is that you have a Lebanese government with the capability to go after Hezbollah and take the Hezbollah apart. There shouldn't be a Hezbollah and a government. There should be a government. Everyone should fold underneath it. And if we do that, then there'll be peace between Israel and Lebanon. But we have to build the capacity of the Lebanese to do it. And I think Italy could be helpful in that regard. All right.
That's it. All right, we got to move on. We have to. We got too many things to get through this morning. All right, Supreme Court agrees to fast track Louisiana voting map decision. Let's go ahead and bring this up. This came out, I believe, somewhat like super late last night, like at midnight or something like that.
Supreme Court last Wednesday struck down Louisiana's congressional map, calling it an
Which we
unconstitutional.
covered, by the way. We covered all that gerrymandering and all the stuff that happened in Louisiana, and now the effects that you're going to see across, especially the South.
Racial gerrymander. This, of course, was a blow to Section 2 of the 1965 Voting Rights Act, a law that was meant to protect minority voters from having their political power reduced. Ultimately, it was in that 6-3 ruling that the court's majority made it harder to challenge voting maps in court. Now, even if a map makes it tougher for minority voters to elect candidates they prefer, it may be harder to prove that that is illegal, especially if there's no clear proof that lawmakers intended to discriminate. This ruling, of course, has now led to other major changes within the state of Louisiana, including the governor, Jeff Landry, in partnership with the state's attorney general, making the decision to postpone the congressional primaries, which was originally set for May 16th, and early voting because of all of these changes. And so this SCOTUS decision is likely to affect the 6th district.
Yes, let's get the likes up, by the way. If you're on the vertical side, make sure you guys double tap that screen. I very much appreciate your guys' engagement. Thank you for that.
Louisiana. It covers areas in Shreveport, Baton Rouge, Lafayette, as well as Alexandria. And so many folks there in those regions are likely to be affected by these new changes. And the seat is currently held by the Democrat Representative Cleo Fields, who joins us now here on Live Now from Fox. Representative Fields, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you, Christina, and it's a pleasure to be with you.
Well, this is a conversation, as we see, it's not only talked about there in your state. Just listening into that rally that was happening live there in Tennessee, voting rights are a conversation that are happening across the country. But I do want to first start with you and your reaction to that news. Late last week, the Supreme Court had struck down some of those prior decisions that had been a key portion of the Voting Rights Act.
Oh, it was an absolute terrible decision. I mean,
I knew this motherfucker was going to say that. I'm just saying.
I was sitting in financial services committee meeting when it all came down. My office sent me a text. I went to the office and sat in the office for about 3 hours and tried to dissect the opinion. It was a terrible decision. It basically gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. In 2013, they gutted subsection 5. And so now, the voters that you just saw, that you just aired, those voters are frustrated all over the country, and particularly in the southern part of our country, because they feel that they have nothing to turn to protect their right to vote. It is one thing to have a constitutional amendment to give individuals the right to vote, but it's a whole nother thing when you allow state governments to basically regulate that right to vote. And I think that's what you're hearing from people all across the country. They feel a sense of disenfranchisement. And I had a town hall meeting last night in Shreveport, Louisiana, packed room. I mean, people are very concerned. People feel like their rights are being taken away. And I'm trying to, give people some sense of comfort that we've seen these fights before. Plessy v. Ferguson, where this same Supreme Court said it was all right to have segregation and it didn't violate the 14th Amendment. So it's not like the first time the Supreme Court has, issued a very terrible decision. But we have to keep fighting. What would have happened if the civil rights community just, sat on their hands after Plessy v. Ferguson? We wouldn't have had the progress as we've had today. So we have to keep motivated, keep fighting, and keep voting. I tell people in Louisiana, I think the governor and the Secretary of State basically put the cart before the horse when they halted the election after sending out over 100,000 absentee ballots. I mean, that was wrong. People's votes are being disenfranchised. And we just have to keep up the fight. We'll see another Supreme Court in the future. This is not the last you will see. You see another Congress. This is not the last you will hear about the Voting Rights Act.
Man, this cope is insane.
This too shall pass, but we got to remain forever vigilant and stay in the fight.
And Representative Fields.
All right. Sounds good. We know his take. We know where he's going and his line of thinking. All right. Sounds good. We're moving on. Project Freedom. Trump pauses plan to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz. And this was at the request of Pakistan, actually. So let's go ahead and bring this up, and we'll quickly get into this.
We've also been tracking the latest out of the Strait of Hormuz. This is a live depiction of the strait, courtesy of Marine Traffic. The latest coming from the White House as it relates to ongoing negotiations between the U.S. and Iran and the mediating party, Pakistan, is this. President Trump just sent this out moments ago. Based on the request of Pakistan and other countries, the tremendous military success that we have had during the campaign against the country of Iran, and additionally, the fact that great progress has been made toward a complete and final agreement with representatives of Iran, we have mutually agreed that while the blockade will remain in full force and effect, Project Freedom, the movement of ships through the Strait of Hormuz, will be paused for a short period of time to see whether or not the agreement can be finalized and signed. President Trump signs that. A live look again at the White House as he brings a close, or at least a temporary pause, to Project Freedom. We do have standing by here retired Marine intelligence officer, national security analyst, and the host of the Strat podcast, Hal Kempfer. You and I planned to come on here tonight and talk about.
Now we're actually going to get some information. Let's go.
What Operation Freedom's nuts and bolts actually look like as it's being carried out. But now we're hearing of it being paused. The implications of Trump's announcement, Hal.
Well, the implications, Austin, are that what we had going, and certainly Secretary Rubio came out this morning and said, "Hey, Epic Fury is done. That major combat action, Epic Fury is done. We're done with that." Now, there's a lot of reasons why he said that, but he says the focus is on Project Freedom. And then this afternoon, you have this sudden thing saying Project Freedom's on pause. I'm a little curious as to.
Now that is facts, VC. You know the deal. It says give them a like and $10, and you will get good news today. Well, true news. Absolutely. A lot of people are up. Listen, man. There's a lot of people that get upset at the facts. It's unfortunate. Listen, you got to put your emotions aside because we're not talking about what ought be, what should be. We're showing you guys what is, and it just is what it is. It's disregarding even my own emotion, right?
What the the progress that's been made, because this afternoon Iran just put out a whole bunch of detailed instructions on how they're going to let ships transit the Strait of Hormuz. Obviously, still claiming they control the Strait of Hormuz or asserting claim or control over the Strait of Hormuz, which is a violation of international law. It's a violation of transit passage, innocent passage, you name it. Everything that's been set up for the Strait, and yet here they are putting that out. And there are these times when you, for example, you heard not that long ago, Foreign Minister Araghchi of Iran basically saying, "Hey, look, we don't want this to sink into a greater military quagmire," and talking about the threat of this thing going back to military action. And almost as he was saying it, you saw Iran launching missiles and drones attacking the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, this weekend. So there's this cognitive disconnect here in terms of what they're saying. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it's on pause. And maybe it's because it could be a very practical reason, was that a lot of the maritime shippers said, "Look, you're not escorting our ships, you're just guiding them. So we're not going to go through the Strait." So that may be a good reason as well.
It's been a busy 24, 48 hours. We just heard from Secretary Hegseth and from General Kane earlier this morning at a press briefing. Joint Chiefs Chairman Kane, he's saying that Iran's recent acts of aggression are below the threshold of major combat operations, which means that the ceasefire still holds. Obviously, Secretary Rubio, he took Caroline Leavitt's place at the White House press briefing today. He did say that the major U.S. military operation against Iran is over, but kind of an important piece of his verbiage here. He said the major U.S. military operation is over, but he didn't say that the conflict is over. He also didn't exactly say that it cannot be restarted either. Also, as of Tuesday evening local time, as you allude to, the UAE was actively engaging still with missile and drone attacks from Iran. Hal, you could argue that the Trump administration had an excuse to resume intense fighting given everything that's been going on, but they chose not to. What does that tell you about their priorities right now?
Well, what it tells me is, as you know, Friday was the deadline for 60 days into this conflict. Under the War Powers Act, 60 days, the president has to go back and ask for a 30-day extension by Congress, or Congress has to declare war. Neither of those things are going to happen. Now, they've always claimed that the White House has claimed that the War Powers Act doesn't apply. Twice it's been brought up. It's been brought up to the Senate and the House. They've never taken action on it. But I think in the back of their minds, they are thinking about that. Now, they've said that when the ceasefire was implemented in April, that was when, basically war or things akin to war, things that might apply under the War Powers Act stopped because of the ceasefire. And I think that still is part of their thinking, is they don't want to trip the clock, whether it starts again, that's a little unclear under the law, or whether there would be a continuation of what's already seen. So you see a little bit of a rhetorical ambiguity there, which is, are we done or are we not done? We still have all the forces in place to kick it off again. We could go back to a combat action, but at the same time saying we haven't seen anything that meets that threshold of major combat action. Again, kind of alluding to what's going on there. The other side, too, is a number of other countries may be putting maritime assets, naval assets in there to help with opening the Strait. They have to have something like a ceasefire in order to politically push that over the line, in order to get their assets deployed. With Japan, it's actually a constitutional issue where they would need to have something like a strong ceasefire in place simply to send Japanese naval assets in there to work with things like mine clearing or mine sweeping operations. So there is a reason why they want to make it sound as if there's a ceasefire in place. On the other hand, they don't want to make it sound like we're cutting and running, that we're still engaged and we could go back to major combat action if we so choose.
Absolutely.
live look
I said
at,
that earlier.
Marine traffic's depiction of some of the
Shit, on the last Diamond Effect, we got a Diamond Effect this evening, by the way. But the last Diamond Effect, I said exactly that.
activity in the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump will have his high-stakes summit with President Xi of China late next week. How Trump recently said that China hasn't challenged him regarding Iran, saying, quote, in all fairness, he gets like 60% of his oil from the Strait of Hormuz, unquote. So Trump, his rhetoric is deferring from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who a day earlier said the administration wants to see Beijing step up and pressure Iran to open the strait. So Hal, why might Trump be taking a more measured approach with his rhetoric on toward Xi and especially ahead of this high-stakes summit?
Well, I think part of it is he doesn't want to upset the summit. You know, he already had to postpone this once because of this war. So he basically postponed going over to China because this was it was looming too heavily over the entire summit for anything else really to be discussed. I think at this point, you keep the ceasefire in place. It creates the idea that we're working towards some sort of agreement. That was cited today, that there is some sort of agreement that's being worked towards that I can't quite figure out what that would be, but it's being worked towards. But it keeps everything going there. And Xi gets a tremendous amount of oil. You know, there's a couple of ways to look at what's happening. You know, the fear was that we're going to use up a lot of missiles and a lot of, high value but low density ordnance in Iran. And that could incentivize the PRC and Xi to maybe do something militarily, potentially invade or try to do an amphibious landing on Taiwan. That was one thought. The other thought is they realized just how fragile these international sea lanes are, how fragile their supply chain is in getting oil and other natural resources, and the effect that this has had, and the fact that maritime conflict has changed because of missiles and drones and all this stuff, so that they're doing a little bit of a pause as well. And I think that President Trump is basically trying to tamp down some of the more sharper rhetoric in this regard. And of course, there's been a lot of stuff written out there that, China is either the big winner or the big loser in this conflict. And I think he's trying to stay clear of that whole discussion.
So when the time comes, when the two are face-to-face, Trump and Xi, what are they going to have to talk about Middle East-wise in the immediate term?
Well, they're going to have a discussion on maritime choke points and sea lanes. That I don't know how they get around that. I mean, under the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, the right to transit passage through these things is guaranteed. It's not just Hormuz. We have the same issue. There's threats that the Houthis may try to start firing missiles and drones and cause problems with the Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which is the Red Sea, and of course that leads up to the Suez Canal. And they've done that before, basically virtually shutting down that vital choke point. And then there's other issues that this goes around the world. Obviously the Taiwan Strait, nearly half of all container traffic by sea goes through the Strait of Taiwan.
Absolutely, because most of the exports come from China.
The Taiwan Strait. So that is a big issue that they have to discuss. And then, of course, also, the Strait of Malacca down in between Malaysia and Indonesia, very narrow waterway. I think 40% of seagoing trade by value goes through that. All of these things are now very much on the radar because of what's just happened in Hormuz. And of course, the issue is Iran. China has a very close relationship with Iran, but Iran is basically asserting that they control this international sea lane. And that's one where I think the president has to engage with Xi and say, look, this is something that cannot be.
Look, this is not owned by anybody. It's not owned by Iran. It's not owned by China, even though they're going to try. It's an international waterway. So, I mean, it's a shipping lane. It's not owned by anybody. And that's the argument.
Tolerate on the international scene if we're going to maintain an integrated global economy.
You can listen to the Strap Podcast anywhere podcasts are available. Good to see you.
All right, let's go ahead and bring up
thanks,
the next
Austin.
story here. We're going to be talking a little bit about the update on the Hantavirus outbreak. Human-to-human transmission suspected on cruise ship, and we already gave you guys the very first story on that. But now let's go ahead and give you guys this update here on what's going on. There's two different cases going on, two different ships, actually. But here we go.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. I'm Shauna Kalafi. We've been following the latest developments on a cruise ship off the coast of West Africa, where there is a suspected Hantavirus outbreak. There are 2 confirmed cases and 5 suspected cases of Hantavirus on this ship, and 3 people have now died. The World Health Organization says that Dutch authorities are now planning.
And what's crazy about it is they were on board for I can't remember. It was 15 days before they were able to unload bodies at one of the ports. So it's been an
evacuations for some of the people on board, and passengers are being asked to remain in their rooms. Medical experts are now testing samples to determine the strain of this potentially deadly virus. Fox's Gary Bumgarden has the latest.
Tragedy at sea as a search for answers intensifies on board the MV Hantavirus. This after the World Health Organization cited.
We got 483 people in here. Let's get the likes up, everybody. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. Thank you.
A suspected outbreak of the Hantavirus, a rare disease believed to have killed at least 3 passengers and affect several more who were on the Dutch cruise ship.
The main symptoms when it starts is going to be a fever and body aches and just feeling really bad. People will start feeling more short of breath, or your oxygen levels get low. Your kidneys can stop working.
Hantavirus is usually spread through contact with rodents or their droppings.
And
Their
what
droppings and their piss, actually, and then it becomes airborne.
happens is when people disturb their nests and that urine and feces gets aerosolized and you breathe it in, that's how it gets into the human body.
The cruise ship carrying roughly 150 passengers from around the world, including 17 from America, departed from Argentina. It then made several stops, including ones in the Canary Islands and mainland Antarctica, before heading to Cape Verde off the coast of West Africa, where officials are seeking help from local health experts.
This a hantavirus that came from South America that was brought on the cruise ship, or it was something on the cruise ship and the rodents, if there were rodents on that ship, or did it get picked up along the way at the different stops?
There are no specific drugs to treat the disease, and patients with severe cases are.
Wow, that was actually one of my first questions. Is like, I wonder what the treatment is like on this, if there is one, and they just said there is not.
Placed on ventilators. The WHO says there is low risk to the wider public. As
World Health
investigations
Organization.
press on.
So in theory, the hantavirus could be transmitted from person to person, but that would be incredibly
Rare.
It is almost
Yep.
always from the rodent exposure.
Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Terrible.
And the World Health Organization putting this this is the statement from the cruise ship company. This is Oceanwide Expeditions that planned this cruise. They put out this statement saying the medical evacuation of 2 individuals currently requiring urgent medical care and the individual associated with the guest who passed away on May 2nd will occur using 2 specialized aircraft that are en route to Cape Verde right now.
Yeah, and they said that there's been only reported 900 cases of this in I think the United States. I don't know, maybe the world in the last 30 years, and maybe not the world, but at least in the United States, I think that's what was reported was, in the last 30 years. Wow, that's very small amount compared to the length of that.
From there, the patients will be medically evacuated to the Netherlands. At this stage, we do not have an exact timeline. They say once these 3 individuals have been safely transferred from the vessel and are in transit to the Netherlands, the MV Hantavirus will begin repositioning. Our plan is to proceed to the Canary Islands, which will take 3 days of sailing. Discussions are ongoing with relevant authorities. This will be shared when concrete plans are available. So again, 7 people have reported ill on that cruise ship, 3 people dead, 1 person in the ICU right now in South Africa as authorities.
And this one, this right here, the small cruise ship, it's not the, big, 5,000 people on there, whatever. So this is off the Atlantic Ocean over there in, kind of by Africa, off the coast of Africa, and there's 150 passengers on there on this particular one.
Authorities there are now planning medical evacuations for some of those people on board. That ship yesterday was refused docking at Cape Verde, so now they say they are headed to the Canary Islands once they get those medical evacuations off the ship. They are planning to dock there in the Canary Islands and get everybody else off the ship as well. We also heard from the World Health Organization earlier today with the latest on those suspected and confirmed hantavirus cases on this cruise ship off the coast of West Africa.
So I'd like to update you on the situation involving hantavirus on a cruise ship that is currently stationed.
So Joel, let me go ahead and answer this real quick, even though you didn't send me money. Okay, look, we're not showing any opinion pieces here. Have we shown you one opinion? No. We're giving you guys exactly what is actually happening and what the reports are. We're not giving like, oh, let's go ahead and side with something. No, it's straight factual. There's nothing. It could have been CNN, could have been NBC, could have been whatever. But this particular outlet right here, they particularly show live what is happening. They're not giving opinions. They're showing you what is actually happening, such as this lady right now speaking, right? This actually happened. We're not discussing what she's talking about. We're showing you what is being talked about, what is actually happening.
The coast of Cabo Verde in the Atlantic Ocean. As of today, 7 individuals of the 147 passengers and crew have been reported ill. Sadly, 3 have died. 1 patient is in intensive care in South Africa, although we understand that this patient is improving, while 2 patients are still on board the ship and are being prepared for medical evacuation to the Netherlands for treatment. In our disease outbreak news that we published late last night, we did mention a third suspected case who reported a mild fever at one point, and that would make this a total of 7 cases, 2 confirmed and 5 suspected. This person, I'm happy to say, is currently doing.
I chose what is being presented. And yes, there's many times I show other news sources, but we primarily focus on Live Now because it shows live events, what's happening. It shows what other people and other creators are talking about. I'm showing what actually is happening.
Well, and is asymptomatic.
And if you're too dense to figure that out, then get the fuck out of here.
Numbers will change. They'll go up or they'll go down. So we will update you as necessary. At this stage, there are no additional symptomatic people on board. That said, the situation is being closely monitored. And as a precaution, passengers have been asked to remain in their cabins while disinfection and other public health measures are carried out. Medical teams from Cabo Verde are providing support on board the ship. Hantavirus infection was confirmed by laboratory tests in 2 of the patients by the National Institute for Communicable Diseases in South Africa, and further tests, including sequencing of the virus, is being conducted by NICD, as well as testing of the symptomatic patients on board, those 2 individuals, with the support from Institut Pasteur of Dakar in Senegal.
I just banned them. Fuck them.
Hantaviruses are viruses that are carried by some types of rodents. They can cause severe illness in humans, and they can be fatal. While we don't often hear about them, there are thousands of infections that are estimated to occur globally each year. People are usually infected through contact with infected rodents or their urine, their droppings, or their saliva. Human-to-human transmission is uncommon, though limited spread among close contacts has been observed in some previous outbreaks with one of the viruses, the Andes virus. WHO is working closely with authorities in Cabo Verde, the Netherlands, South Africa, Spain, the United Kingdom, and the ship's operators to coordinate actions to ensure the safety and health of all people on board, while also limiting further spread. WHO has informed all of our member states through our channels, our international health regulation channels. We are supporting the medical evacuation of the 2 sick patients who are stable on board, and we're coordinating with the Dutch and Cabo Verde authorities and the ship's operators. This is currently underway. Epidemiologic investigations are also underway to better understand the source of exposures of the suspected cases. Contact tracing is ongoing. Further laboratory testing continues. We are also coordinating information exchanges and actions across all of the member states that are involved. As you know, there are more than 20 nationalities represented by people that are on board. We are providing technical assistance. We're ensuring appropriate public health measures are in place on board. We are also conducting risk assessments and have released emergency funds for our contingency fund for emergencies to support immediate actions. Collaboration has really been excellent. I can't thank that enough. I thank all of the member states who have been involved, the NICD, the Institut Pasteur Dakar, the ministries. This is what WHO does. This is what we want to see happen in each of these outbreaks. So we're extremely grateful. And I don't apologize for thanking them, even though that's what they're meant to do. So thank you to everyone involved. Based on the current information and what we know about previous outbreaks.
Dubious. Let me go ahead and drop the link for you so that you can go ahead and see it for yourself. And anytime someone asks, I try to go ahead and give you guys the sources of what we're showing if someone asks.
Assesses the overall risk to the public as low. We will continue to monitor the situation. We were actively engaged in working with countries, and we will provide any updates as necessary.
And to answer, by the way, it's off of Live Now from Fox.
That was the World Health Organization speaking this morning about this suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship now anchored off the coast of West Africa. They were refused docking in Cape Verde yesterday. They now say they're working to get some people off of the ship with a medical evacuation via aircraft, and then they are planning to head to the Canary Islands, hoping to dock there. There are 2 confirmed cases of hantavirus, 5 suspected, and 3 people dead in this outbreak on that cruise ship.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when this came out, I think yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. But I saw it on social media. It's like World Star posted it, and I commented. I said, yeah, you guys can figure that shit out at Anchor. You guys don't be allowing these motherfuckers to come to the dock, man. You know what I mean? Figure that shit out.
The medical experts are now testing samples to determine what strain of hantavirus, this potentially deadly virus, is on the ship, and passengers on board now being asked to stay inside of their rooms. I have been speaking to one passenger on board. This is Jake Rossman. He had this video statement posted yesterday on social media, and then we'll also read you his latest statement from this morning, breaking down what it's like on the ship right now.
No kidding, Mr. H.
I normally wouldn't make a video like this, but I feel like I need to say something, so I wrote a few things down.
This is a guy that's on the ship. No way. Question, though.
Why are you gay?
It's just a question.
I'm currently on board the MV Hobbyist. And what's happening right now is very real for all of us here.
Oh my God, this guy is putting on theatrics. You can tell it's not genuine. You can tell, first of all, he's reading and he's playing up the crying and stuff.
We're not just a story. We're not just headlines. We're people. People with families, with lives, with people waiting for us at home. There's a lot of uncertainty, and that's the hardest part. All we want right now is to feel safe, to have clarity, and to get home. So if you're seeing coverage about this, just remember that there are real people behind it, and that this isn't something happening somewhere far away. It's happening to us right now. I'll share more when I can, but for now, I just ask for your kindness and understanding. Thank you.
Kindness and understanding.
So that was a cruise passenger and
well, I'm being kind and I understand.
Blogger Jake Rossman with that emotional video that he posted yesterday, May 4th. He also put out this written statement, an update today. He said, "This is my update 3 days into the situation on board the MV Hondias. Other than the 2 ill passengers that have already been referenced in the media, everyone else on board is doing well and remains in good spirits. We are hopeful that the situation will be resolved soon. Ocean-wide expeditions and the crew have been doing everything."
Yeah, no kidding there, Forrest. Check it out. I worked on the ocean, I was, a merchant mariner, right, for over a decade. And I never went on no cruise ship, or a cruise. I did go on cruise ships because I was actually working in the aspect where I'd fuel, whether it be tankers, whether it be cargo vessels or cruise ships, passenger vessels, all that kind of stuff. But anyhow, yeah, absolutely. I just never needed to do that. Fucking work equaled water. That's the way I looked at it. So
their ability to keep passengers safe, informed, and as
Thank you for that,
comfortable as
Pablo.
possible during this time.
Still got a lot more to go.
Note that this is not a traditional cruise ship, but an expedition vessel. These ships operate with strict protocols and a strong emphasis on cleanliness, especially given the remote and environmentally sensitive regions that they visit, which require high levels of biosecurity. The vessel is maintained to a very high standard, and suggestions that it is unclean are not accurate. He says safety measures are in place, including social distancing as well as masking.
What's up, brother Pitbull? Over there across the pond in the UK. Great to see you, by the way. Good afternoon to you. Great to see you.
Also have the option to have meals delivered directly to their cabins. Access to the outer decks is permitted for fresh air, while gathering in indoor common areas such as the lounge is currently restricted. We continue to be well cared for, and additional medical provisions and supplies have been brought on board. At this time, we remain hopeful that the situation will be resolved soon. So
Steelers fan. So I used to be a live streamer on Twitch. And so I used to get it back then when I was on Twitch, but I'm on YouTube. So not everyone here watches that guy, right? But everyone on Twitch pretty much knows who the fuck Summit is. But yeah, that is funny. Appreciate you.
The latest from just one of those passengers on board that cruise ship, where 7 people have been reported ill. There are 2 confirmed cases of Hantavirus and 5 suspected cases. 3 people have died, and they're now working with Dutch authorities trying to get a medical evacuation via aircraft for those ill passengers, and then get the rest of the passengers to dock in the Canary Islands.
No, don't be docking that fucking thing until you figure that shit out, motherfuckers. All right, we're moving on. All right, so we got Trump-backed Ramaswamy wins Ohio governor primary. This just came out this morning. Let's go ahead and bring this up and quickly go through it. We don't even need to play the whole thing because we still got the Hantavirus update from that, and then we have Trump issues a new threat to Iran over the strait, and then some weird story about sloths that have just magically started dying. 50+ dead sloths. Dead in Orlando. What the fuck is going on with the sloths? Anyways.
Remember, when the Department of Government Efficiency was announced and created, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they were labeled as the 2 people that were going to spearhead the Doge movement. It wasn't too long after that we heard that Vivek would indeed be stepping back in pursuit of political office in Ohio. He's running for the governorship there. His primary tonight, resulting in him getting an easy victory as expected. And Vivek, he's speaking to a crowd right now in Ohio. Let's dip into a little bit of his remarks. This is live.
take Ohio to new heights, how we're going to wring out the waste, fraud, and abuse out of an abused Medicaid system, to put that money back in your pockets where it belongs, and to bring down health insurance premiums while we're at it, to make life more affordable in this state. So when our kids graduate, if you work hard and you play by the rules, you get to have a good life and then dream for an even better life for your kids, that you're free to speak your mind at every step of the way. That is my pledge to every person in this state who voted for me today and who will vote for us in November. Our pledge to you is that we will deliver you lower costs, bigger paychecks, and better schools. And my pledge to every person who does not vote
Man, that's a big claim.
us this November is also lower costs, bigger paychecks, and better schools. And we will protect your right to complain about it at every step of the way. But what I will tell you is that I believe we're on the cusp of a new dawn for Ohio, one where we reconnect with our roots of ambition, the state that raised Neil Armstrong and John Glenn and the Wright brothers and Thomas Edison, the state that led the first industrial revolution, the state where Toledo led the world in glass production, the state where Akron led in rubber production, the state where Youngstown and Cleveland led in steel production, the state where Dayton led in computing, the state where my hometown of Cincinnati was known around the world as the Queen City, will once again be at the forefront of our country, the bleeding edge of our country from the center of our country, a state that patriots across this country actually flock to and flock back to, including so many of our kids and grandkids whom I have thought they were finding refuge in other states coming back to, not because we forced them to, but because this is the state in the United States, and dare I say, this is the state on planet Earth where the best opportunities are actually available to them. That is why I'm running to be your next governor. It is not for fame. It is not for fortune. Our family has been blessed beyond our wildest imagination, beyond what my parents or Purva's parents could have imagined just a few decades ago. But I am in this, and I speak for Rob and myself here. We are in this because we believe that together, with the complementary skills that we bring to the table, we are the two people in this state who can work together as a team to lead Ohio back to our true potential, to our greatest heights, to put more money in your pocket, to bring down those costs, and to give our kids the world-class education that is the birthright of every Ohioan. And so we are asking you tonight, on the night that we have secured our primary victory, thank you for everybody who got us through this finish line, with a historic margin. The final numbers are coming in. We're going to see them tomorrow morning, but I think what they will show you is that the Republican Party coming out of a primary for governor has never been more united than we are tonight. With that energy behind us, we now go to the next destination, the election in November, where we're going to ask.
Look at those numbers. Holy shit. That's a big, humongous landslide win.
Every one of you to do your part, to show up. It might be a rainy night or by then a snowy night. Might be a night where, things are unplanned, things happen. You never know. We're going to ask you to do your part and still show up. Not just once. Not just to vote once, but what I say is the equivalent of voting 10 times. That means you bring 9 other people out with you who otherwise would not have shown up to vote in an election. And don't just make it another Republican. Talk to your neighbors and your friends, and we do have friends. If we're Republicans, we have plenty of friends who are not yet Republicans, okay, who may vote with us this November, who are independents, libertarians, orphaned Reagan Democrats, or politically homeless for that matter. I don't care what you call yourself. If you care about giving your kids and your family the same shot at the American dream that this state and this country gave to me and my family, if you care about giving our kids that world-class education, then honest to God, we will work with you to lead our state to greater heights than we have ever seen. Because we are not a state in decline. We are not a region in decline. We are not a nation in decline. We are a state and a nation still in our ascent. And by the time we're done, maybe even by the end of next year, it will be Ohio that sets the national standard that Texas and Tennessee and Florida look up to rather than the other way around. Once we work together and deliver it this November, we're going to enter an age that makes Ohio the state that the other 49 states actually aspire to. We ask for your help. You all do your part. I promise you, Rob and his family, my family and I, we will do ours to make sure that Ohio's best days and America's best days are actually still ahead of us. Thank you for coming out today, guys. God bless you.
All right. Yeah, he's a good public speaker. All right, we're going to move on into Hantavirus update. New cruiser tests positive, 3 patients evacuated and 3 dead. Now, there has been where they've actually been taken off of the ship. Authorities in Switzerland say a man who returned from South America and traveled aboard the MV Honduras, hit by Hantavirus, has tested positive for the virus and is receiving treatment. The head of the World Health Organization says that 3 more patients with suspected Hantavirus cases have been evacuated from the affected cruise ship and are on their way to the Netherlands for treatment and testing. All right, let's go ahead and bring this up and quickly get into this.
Continuing to follow more breaking news when it comes to passengers who were stranded on the cruise ship after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on that specific cruise. We also have live images coming out at this time, as later on today, we are going to be getting an update from the World Health Organization. Now, the Associated Press reporting this, that the head of the World Health Organization said on Wednesday that 3 patients with suspected hantavirus cases have been evacuated from an affected cruise ship and are on their way to the Netherlands. The WHO Director General said the UN Health Agency is working with the operators of this Dutch-flagged cruise ship.
So interesting, because I actually thought there was 2 ships involved, but it looks like it's only one. I thought there was like another where they took someone else off of another cruise ship, and that's the way it sounded to me when I first read it. So, but no, it's only one ship, and it's this ship. So that got affected with this. That makes way more sense.
To closely monitor the health of the passengers and the crew that are still on board. A little bit more background here for the story in case you have not been following closely. Now, the cruise ship at the center of this deadly outbreak, which is pictured here on the screen, is stuck off the coast of Cape Verde with nearly 150 people on board, and it was still waiting Wednesday to head to Spain's Canary Islands. Meanwhile, health authorities in South Africa and Switzerland have identified a strain of the virus that can be transmitted between humans in rare cases, and in these 3 specific cases that we have been talking about. Authorities in Switzerland announced on Wednesday that a man who returned from South America, and traveled on the cruise ship has tested positive for the virus and is receiving treatment. 3 passengers have died, and at least 5 people have been sickened by hantavirus on board of this cruise ship. Hantavirus usually spreads by inhaling contaminated rodent droppings. There have been 3 laboratory-confirmed cases.
And piss, by the way, it becomes airborne.
Now, the ship left Argentina on April 1st on an Atlantic cruise and was scheduled to include stops in Antarctica, the Falkland Islands, and other locations. However, the itinerary may have changed because of the situation that is currently happening on board. Spain's health ministry said in a statement late on Tuesday that it would receive the MV Hondias vessel, this cruise ship, in the Canary Islands after a request from the World Health Organization and the European Center for Disease and Prevention Control. But for now, it remains here off the coast of Cape Verde, an island nation off West Africa in the Atlantic. The World Health Organization said passengers are isolating in their cabins. Also, South African health authorities said that they have identified the Andes strain of hantavirus in 2 passengers who were on the ship. The World Health Organization says the Andes virus, a specific species of hantavirus, is found in South America, primarily in Argentina and Chile. We can see that sometimes.
Man, that's fucked.
So the feed glitches a little bit here, but again, live images coming from that cruise ship as we are tracking a hantavirus outbreak that has turned deadly. Bringing us out to a social media post courtesy of the Associated Press, in which, again, they say that authorities in Switzerland said a man who returned from South America and traveled on a cruise ship hit by a hantavirus outbreak has tested positive for the virus and is receiving treatment.
We were just, that's exactly what they said in that report. Plus, the Associated Press, it was backed up by Associated Press there. All right, Trump issues new threat to Iran over Hormuz Strait. Let's go ahead and get into this next story here. Let's bring it up. 3, 2, 1, bam. Here we go.
And those are some questions being answered there from President Trump.
Man, make sure you guys hit that like button, man. We're on big overtime today. We're an hour and 51 minutes in. This is easily a 2-hour live stream, man. We usually only do an hour. So today was a big news day. Make sure you guys double tap that screen on the vertical side as well.
Once again, that was yesterday from reporters as he was speaking on Iran. Now, this just coming in here from President Trump. Let's read it to you again, because we're going to bring in our expert here to really talk about what all this means. Saying, assuming Iran agrees to give what has been agreed to, which is perhaps a big assumption, the already legendary epic fury will be at an end, and the highly effective blockade will allow the Hormuz Strait to be open to all, including Iran. If they don't agree, the bombing starts, and it will be, sadly, at a much higher level and intensity than it was before. Now, before we get to this interview, I also wanted to share this here with you. President Trump saying yesterday that Project Freedom, which is that U.S. effort to secure ship movement through the Strait of Hormuz, will be paused temporarily following what he described in that Truth Social post that we shared with you earlier as significant progress towards a potential agreement with Iran. When we also know that Pakistan's prime minister saying today that he is, quote, grateful to President Trump for his courageous leadership and timely announcement regarding the pause in Project Freedom in the Strait of Hormuz. A lot to talk about here. Let's bring in Ben Cohen with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thank you so much for joining us here. As always, we appreciate it.
This is being reported today. Yes, this is only, just let me see if it shows here. 3 hours ago. This is what it's being reported just 3 hours ago on this particular reporting.
I want to start with this post here from President Trump, and let's see if we can just get that back up here, because we were hearing from the president just a short time ago on Iran. This is what he had to say. I read it before I brought you in here. Wanted to get your reaction to what he's saying here. Bombing starts if Iran does not agree to a deal.
Well, I think the key words here are a big assumption because, and it's good to see President Trump acknowledging that the Iranians are very slippery to negotiate with. They make promises which they then rapidly break. And I think if you look at the package of measures that's being proposed, or reportedly at least proposed in this deal, there are many areas where the Iranians are going to have to make big concessions that they haven't made before. So for that reason, it is a big assumption. I think one of the calculations that the administration is making is while the Strait of Hormuz is keeping the oil price in a very delicate stage. And we're seeing troughs and peaks with the oil price, and the oil price is obviously impacting on Western consumers. This goes both ways. And Iran has been losing something like $450 million a day because of...
So the original report was 385 million per day. And then it said up to 400 million or 485 million, I'm sorry. And it could be up to 500 million.
This blockade. And, you know, that is a lot of money for any country to lose, but it's particularly a country that is weighed down by sanctions and that is dependent on this kind of semi-illicit oil trade with countries like China in order to keep its revenues flowing. So I think that is why, because of that economic pressure on Iran, that's why Trump is sounding slightly hopeful that there might be a breakthrough here that we haven't seen before.
And Ben, I'm just going to keep referencing this social media post that did just come out here from President Trump. There's a couple key things that the president says here that I really wanted to touch on. And the first one being, he says, assuming Iran agrees to give what has been agreed to, which is perhaps a big assumption, the already legendary epic fury will be at an end. Let's talk about what we exactly know at this time about the progress being made towards this potential deal with Iran. President Trump saying that's a big assumption if they agree to it. What are those sticking points from Iran?
So, look, if you remember 10 years ago, the US negotiated a nuclear deal with the Iranians that Trump pulled out of. And that deal only focused on the nuclear file. My understanding is that what's being negotiated right now is much broader. So as well as the nuclear file, there are also measures on ballistic missile restrictions and Iran basically ending its power projection in the region, ending its support for terrorist proxies like Hezbollah in Yemen, like the Houthis in Hezbollah in Gaza, the Houthis in Yemen, Hamas in Gaza. So you've got a much wider ranging package of measures there. I think one of the key stumbling blocks, if not the main stumbling block, will be the nuclear issue. And that's not quite clear what exactly is being proposed at this moment. But what I understand is that there's talk of a moratorium on uranium enrichment. Whether the Iranians would be prepared to accept any moratorium, you'd have to ask them. But the American side is talking about, say, a 20-year moratorium on uranium enrichment. And I think that they're also resisting the idea of a sunset clause. In other words, that there will be we'll reach a certain point in time where these restrictions no longer apply. That was the case with the 2015 deal. I think that's something they would want to avoid repeating now. And then, of course, you've got the issue of the enriched uranium stocks that Iran currently has. We know that there are about 40 kilograms of enriched uranium in the tunnels near it.
I want her to read this.
Nuclear research facility.
Coming from Iran International English here.
Isfahan. Trump, throughout this conflict since it began on...
Will you shut up so she can read this?
28. Trump has talked about the need for Iran to hand over this stockpile of enriched uranium. Nothing from the Iranians suggests that they would be willing to do that. And then finally, you of course have the Iranian to respond spending.
Oh man, she wasn't gonna. Man, of course. Now I got to read it because the guy he didn't let her say it. Iran's Revolutionary Guards Navy said safe and stable passage through the Strait of Hormuz would be ensured after what is described as the neutralization of aggressor threats and the introduction of new maritime protocols. End quote. With aggressors' threats neutralized and new protocols in place, safe, stable passage through the Strait of Hormuz will be ensured, the force said in a statement posted on X on Wednesday. The guards also thanked ship captains and owners operating in the Persian Gulf and Gulf of Oman for complying with Iran's Strait of Hormuz's regulations.
Sign now that the Iranians would have to submit to...
All right, so let's go ahead and fast forward a little bit here and get to where she...
thing they've ever agreed to
asked a question here.
And I think that's why Trump is saying it's a big assumption if they'll agree now.
Yeah, and do we really have a timeline on when we can expect more information on this to come out? Because we've seen President Trump give deadlines to Iran in the past. Do we have a timeline on this one, or is this just President Trump putting this out there now, issuing this new threat? The bombing will start again if Iran does not agree to this deal.
Well, again, what I'm seeing reported is that Iran has, I think, 2 days to respond to this deal, and for the duration of those 2 days, the guiding operation that Secretary Rubio was talking about yesterday, essentially bringing these ships through the Strait of Hormuz, that will be suspended. So I think what Washington wants, what the administration wants, is for the Iranians to see this and for the world to see this as some kind of goodwill gesture ahead of the negotiation.
Which I do agree with that. That's exactly right. And he was spot on with that last statement right there. All right, let's get into our next story here. Sloth World update. 50 plus dead in Orlando. Documents show many sloths died from stomach-related issues at Sloth World. The Central Florida Zoo shared that Dumpling passed away on April 24th, bringing the total of sloths dead to 55. Not sure what's going on over there in Florida or in Orlando, you know what I mean? I don't know what the hell's going on over there.
Unacceptable, which is why you've seen offices like ours, alongside Congressman Maxwell Frost, Commissioner Cole Wilson, and others, step up to say, we don't like that answer, and we're going to pursue justice and accountability, regardless of what Florida Wildlife Commission continues to say. And that is why we requested a criminal investigation with the state attorney general. And despite the partisan differences between many of us, there seems to be an alignment that when it comes to animal welfare, and when it comes to protecting our precious ecosystems in Florida and globally, that there is consensus, that this is important, that this transcends all partisanship. And I'm really grateful to see that type of alignment, especially during these political times. What makes today's gathering even more impactful is that we have very, very important visitors who have traveled from Costa Rica to join us today. This is the Sloth Institute and the Sloth Conservation Fund. These are leading expert voices on the health and well-being of sloths, leaders that have been championing conservation efforts in the native lands of our sloths, and they've come all the way from Costa Rica to join us.
So this is Florida State Representative Anna, I can't even say her last name, Escamani. She's a Democrat over there in Florida. No wonder why she speaks the way that she does. You know, she's speaking like a politician. I'm like, man, that's not a normal person that gets up there and just starts talking. You know what I mean? It's not like the owner of the zoo or something.
In Orlando to help emphasize this tragedy, to help
So of course, she's going to pull on her, political strings. I'm sure she cares about this. So
the efforts they played in trying to prevent it from happening in the first place, and to also give the public information on ways you can get involved and what those next steps could be on the policy front. This is the first press conference of their arrival. There'll be many more conversations and meetings. They'll be meeting with the Attorney General and State Attorney's Office later, meeting with the Central Florida Zoo later. So we have a packed agenda for our visitors. We wanted to kick it off with you today to help ensure that you can get some of your initial questions out and that we can start this very important conversation. And so with that said, I'm going to go ahead and start passing the mic. We have our two.
Oh, man, we're only 8 likes away from 100 likes. Let's get the likes up to 100, man. I very much appreciate that. Double tap that screen if you guys are on the vertical side. You guys don't have to like all the craziness happening around the world, but you guys can like it for me and what we're doing here on Insane Wheels. So thank you.
Visitors from Costa Rica. We also have Commissioner Cole Wilson, and we have a concerned citizen who's also going to share her viewpoint as well. And so, oh my gosh. And we have just been joined by Commissioner Mike Scott as well. If you'd like to say a few words, you're welcome to. Okay, so I first want to introduce Dr. Rebecca Cliff, who is the founder and executive director of the Sloth Conservation Foundation.
Yes, that's right. We're in overtime. That's right.
Hi, everyone. Apologies in advance. I've got quite a lot to say on this issue because I feel quite strongly about it. I've spent the last 17 years of my life studying and protecting sloths in the wild. And during that time, I've learned a lot about what sloths need to survive and what's required to care for them properly. Drawing on all of that experience, I can say with complete confidence that what's happened here in the building right behind us goes far beyond anything that should be considered acceptable or human.
So what is it? Is it from neglect? You guys haven't said what the claim, like what's the claim?
I mean, one of the things I think
neglect, what is it?
I think it's really important to say is that we often avoid using words like scared and frightened when we talk about animals, because we've got this idea, this perception that those kind of feelings are somehow uniquely human. But science has shown us again and again that that's not true. Animals, including sloths, are perfectly capable of experiencing these same feelings. They feel scared when they're violently ripped from the rainforest canopy. They feel frightened when they're put in a crate and put in the cargo hold of an airplane and transported across continents. And
I'm sure that's true for lots of animals, actually.
The most important things to know about sloths is that they don't have a strong fight or flight response. When a sloth is scared or frightened, it internalizes that stress, and it will suffer in silence until it's too late. Sloths are incredibly specialized animals. They've evolved over the last 30 million years to live in warm, humid, tropical rainforests where they eat leaves and live quietly in solitude. Every part of their biology is built around that, from their inability to regulate their own body temperature to the specialized microbes that live in their stomach that help them digest the leaves that they eat. When you take a sloth out of that environment...
That's what I'm waiting for, Charles.
And when you replace it with things like brown rice or Pedialyte solutions, when you expose them to cold temperatures and constant human disturbance...
Okay, so there's a little bit of the claims there. Like if you give them rice and Pedialyte, she
brown
said?
rice or Pedialyte solutions, when you expose them to cold temperatures...
So I think this is the claims right here.
And constant human disturbance, they simply do not survive, and we know that. Anyone with even a basic understanding of sloth biology knows this because it's been well documented. We know what sloths need to stay. We know what sloths need to survive. In almost every way imaginable, those needs were not met by Sloth World. From the way these animals were violently taken from the wild, which is reflected in the physical injuries that were seen on their bodies, to the conditions they were kept in here in Florida, they were never given a chance to survive, and the result was suffering and death. And this didn't just happen once.
Well, it shouldn't be acceptable to neglect or cheapen the food just, you know, and listen, I do agree with some of these takes, absolutely.
It happened again and again, and it was allowed to happen, and that is what we're here to understand and to get to the bottom of today. In 2024, 21 sloths were brought here from Guyana, and they were placed in an unprepared warehouse in a parking lot with no electricity, no climate control, and no running water. And within a matter of days, all 21 of those sloths were dead. Another 10 sloths were then imported from Peru. All 10 of those animals died as well.
Damn. So all their imports, basically, of sloths have died. That's a weird, this is a total bizarre story. I mean, we've been covering Iran and politics across not only our politics here in America, but of course, geopolitics, all of it. And then we have a story like this.
None of these deaths were reported at the time because under the current system, they do not have to be. The Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission became aware of the 31 sloth deaths in August 2025 during an inspection, and yet they allowed Sloth World to continue importing more sloths until as recently as March this year. During that time, we now know that another 21 sloths have lost their lives, bringing the total to 55 dead sloths right now.
Damn, that's crazy. All right, that's the claims, everybody. Anyways, listen, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough for not only being here, but showing out, showing love onto the like button on the way in or on the way out, as well as hitting that subscribe button, man. This is what we do Monday through Friday. We usually condense everything into a single hour. Today is a big overtime day. We're at 2 hours. But I can't thank you guys enough for the donations, the engagement, all of it, man. Let's make sure we get that vertical site up to 100 likes. We're very, very close. Make sure you guys hit that. And listen, we'll be back tonight, actually, for the Diamond Effect. We got the Diamond Effect with Archbishop as well as Aaron. And that will be at 7:15, let's call it. 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time, by the way. That's 8:15 p.m. Eastern. So anyways, and then of course, more of the world's madness tomorrow morning, as we always do. Listen, anyways, thank you guys. Much love, honor, respect, everybody. Make sure you guys stick around for the raid. Actually, we haven't even selected anybody. So today we're not even raiding. I thought I selected somebody, but I didn't. Anyways, you guys are going to have to find your own way out. Much love, honor, respect, everybody. God bless everyone.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges.